The film opened with the accidental yet emotionally charged journey of Suji. She went to find Tan Su to retrieve a necklace, a memento full of meaning. While passing through the hallway, a familiar voice suddenly echoed from a nearby room, startling her. The tone, intonation, even the catchphrase were all exactly like her mother's. Unable to suppress her curiosity, Suji approached, standing silently by the window, quietly observing the tense argument between the two women inside. She only managed to see the back of the woman before she stepped completely inside. Just then, Lu Zhou discovered her presence, but instead of getting angry, he teased her with a hidden meaning. Before Su Ji could react, he pulled the curtain, leaving her to silently leave in embarrassment. Meanwhile, Lu Zhou's mother entered, wondering why he was drawing the curtains in broad daylight. She also mentioned the letter of recommendation that Professor Jiang had written, hoping he would appreciate it and respond to their kindness. But Lu Zhou didn't want to be forced to study abroad, even sarcastically saying that if he just complied with everyone, he might as well sign up for all 18 sports categories. He used to be a good son, always obeying every arrangement. Repeating a grade was fine. Studying abroad was also done, but now he didn't want to live like that anymore. He asserted that if he had a girlfriend, he would definitely make it public, but living with his family was not. He had plans to go abroad and didn't want to be dragged back and forth. The next morning, Su Ji helped her best friend Kai-Ying film a vlog about their free days after the college entrance exam. While chatting, she mentioned a strange incident from the day before when she heard a voice exactly like her mother's near Tan Su's rented place. She wondered if it was possible for two people in the world to have the exact same voice. Kai-Ying immediately pressed her for details, and Su Ji admitted that she had gone to see Tan Su yesterday to talk, and also to get back the four-leaf clover necklace that he had borrowed before the exam, promising that it would bring good luck. Hearing this, Kai-Ying teased that relying on luck without real ability wouldn't lead to a better result. The two decided to go to Tan Su's place together. When he saw Su Ji, Tan Su looked hurt, thinking that she had come only to make fun of him. But Su Ji insisted that she didn't mean that. She only did 2 more high-scoring math problems, and if that made him sad, she was willing to admit it was her fault. This conversation was inadvertently overheard by Lu Zhou and Yang Qi downstairs. When the topic of the expected valedictorian came up, Yang Qi remarked that the girl didn't even know that Tan Su's lacking subject was an elective and that she was using him to comfort her loser boyfriend. Lu Zhou replied that even with one lacking subject, Tan Su's spirits were stable and he hadn't collapsed at all. The two went into the room, leaving the unfinished conversation behind. Upstairs, Su Ji continued to express her gratitude for Tan Su's help in getting her through a difficult time. She insisted that if he needed it, she was willing to help, but Tan Su refused her pity. He felt that they were different now. One was about to enter a key university, and the other was preparing to repeat a grade, and there was no reason to see each other anymore. He said bitterly that the exam was over, and to her, he had lost all value. Faced with that coldness, Su Ji only wanted to get back the necklace as a way to completely cut ties, but Tan Su angrily took off the necklace and threw it straight out the window. Su Ji and Kai-Ying immediately ran downstairs to look for it, but after searching for a long time, they couldn't find it. Kai-Ying suspected that the necklace was caught in a tree, so the two decided to ask for help. Su Ji knocked on Lu Zhou's door, and Yang Qi answered it. As soon as he saw her, he slammed the door shut, teasingly announcing to Lu Zhou that the beauty had arrived. When he learned that she needed to find a necklace stuck in a tree, Yang Qi immediately pushed Lu Zhou forward to help her. Seeing the necklace high up, Lu Zhou offered to buy her a new one, but Su Ji refused. To her, it wasn't just a piece of jewelry, but a sacred memento filled with emotions. She asked him to use a drone to pinpoint the location. Just then, Yang Qi waved a stick through the branches, accidentally causing a necklace to fall down. But when Su Ji picked it up and examined it closely, she confirmed that it wasn't hers. She continued to observe and discovered that the real necklace was caught on another branch. In that moment, Lu Zhou unconsciously gazed at her face, a vague emotion stirring in his heart, something he couldn't quite name, but it touched his first flutter of feeling. Kai-Ying, through her efforts, helped her friend successfully retrieve the necklace. She wanted to treat the whole group to dinner to express her gratitude. Seeing Lu Zhou hesitate, Kai-Ying made an excuse that the whole group already had boyfriends, implying that no one would pay attention to anything between her and him. That lie startled Su Ji a little, but Kai-Ying whispered that with a handsome guy like Lu Zhou, the best way to approach him was to pretend to be indifferent. Suji then personally thanked Lu Zhou and earnestly invited him to have a meal, because the necklace was the last memento her mother had left her. Hearing this, he nodded in agreement. Suji wanted to approach him more, partly to find an opportunity to meet his mother. The small party was held at Hoji Barbecue. While eating, she asked Lu Zhou for his birthday, but he replied coldly that he didn't remember and told her that if she was going to start a conversation, she should at least ask his name first. She reached out her hand and introduced herself as Suji. He replied concisely, Lu Zhou. Lu Zhou was curious about the necklace, why it had fallen into the tree. Kaiying immediately interjected, explaining that Suji did better in college than her ex-boyfriend, which made the other person feel inferior, and the two had a Cold War. Suji once came to demand the necklace back, but her boyfriend got angry and threw it straight downstairs. Kaiying also abruptly introduced Tan Su as Suji's current boyfriend, which surprised her greatly, but she had to nod in agreement because she had already told a lie. Suddenly, Lu Zhou received a text message and got up to leave immediately. Seeing this, Suji chased after him, squeezing in to pay for the meal, but the network lagged, causing her to wait a long time. Lu Zhou sat outside playing rock, paper, scissors with a little boy to save a place in line, but the boy kept losing and finally burst into tears, burying his head in his arms. The boy's father came over, thinking his son was being bullied, and got angry. The boy then tattled that Lu Zhou had taken his seat and even hit him. The father angrily prepared to raise his voice when Suji stepped forward, asking the boy where Lu Zhou had hit him. The boy pointed to the pants he was wearing. Suji then pointed to Lu Zhou's clean, white shoes, sarcastically saying that if he had really been kicked there, how could there be no stains? Right when things were tense, a girl ran over from afar with her father. She explained that she had asked Lu Zhou to hold their place because she had taken her father to the bathroom. The man realized the misunderstanding, quickly apologized, and then left. Suji took the opportunity to send Lu Zhou a video recording of this scene as evidence, saying that her father was a doctor, so she had a habit of recording everything if she was being harassed. Lu Zhou was touched, asking why she would help him like that on their second meeting. Suji simply replied, "Since we've introduced ourselves, we're considered friends, and besides, I couldn't doubt you based on the words of a mischievous kid." She received a message reminding her to buy roasted sweet potatoes for her grandma. On the way back, she saw Lu Zhou sitting alone again. He guessed that if her grandma didn't have sweet potatoes, she would be sad, so he said that he had a bag at his house. She agreed to go to his house, and it started raining on the way. The two shielded each other under a small umbrella, eventually taking shelter in a stall. Under the eaves, they shared contrasting memories. Suji hated rain because the last time her mom signed for her to take the motorcycle exam was on a rainy night. Then, her mom suddenly passed away, leaving the message, "If you get hurt again, don't come home." She called repeatedly, but no one answered, and when she called her dad, she received the bad news. Lu Zhou, on the other hand, liked the rain because thanks to the big rain that day, his parents and younger brother, who had left him home to go out, had to come back. It was a rare time he felt like he wasn't abandoned. The rain stopped, and the two went back to his house together. Suji was given 6 sweet potatoes, but she wanted to bake them right away using the microwave. When she said that she didn't have a microwave at home, he didn't believe her, but still agreed to help. While waiting, she asked him if his mom often came to cook for him. He replied with a joke, asking if she was planning to freeload. She suggested becoming WeChat friends, but he made the excuse that his phone was out of battery. Just 2 seconds later, the phone in his pocket rang, exposing the lie he had just told. Lu Zhou gave the sweet potatoes to Suji to take back to her grandma, making her extremely happy. When she got back to her room, Suji told Kaiying that she had gone to Lu Zhou's house, but still hadn't met his mom or even Ms. E. She also recounted that according to what she heard, he was an adopted child that was picked up. Looking around the house, she realized that everything had his name on it. A strange feeling flashed through her mind, and she thought of the children who used to live in orphanages like him. Those children often had to mark their ownership by writing their names on everything. Suji expressed her desire to meet Lu Zhou's mother, but knew that to do that, she first needed to become friends with him. However, this wasn't easy at all because he was extremely unapproachable. Even becoming WeChat friends was something she hadn't been able to do. Hearing this, Kaiying reassured her that she had befriended Yang Qi, Lu Zhou's close friend, and promised to provide any news she got. As for Lu Zhou that night, he tossed and turned, unable to sleep, quietly turned on a recording of Suji's voice, and laughed while listening, an unconscious reaction that he himself didn't know about. The next morning, he was playing pizza with Yang Qi when his younger brother, Xing Qi, came to force him to go on a summer getaway with his classmates. He reluctantly agreed on the condition that he be paid 800 yuan per day to hang out and an additional 500 yuan if they wanted to bring Yang Qi along as a traveling art teacher. Xing Qi immediately agreed. That information quickly reached Kai Ying's ears, and she immediately whispered it to Su Ji. After hearing it, she came up with the idea of asking her dad for permission to go on a 2-day vacation with Kai Ying. The next day, when Lu Zhou and Yang Qi were preparing their luggage, they unexpectedly ran into Tan Su. Lu Zhou instinctively avoided him, causing Yang Qi to be suspicious. When he heard him explain that he was just afraid that the other person's girlfriend might have feelings for him, Yang Qi warned Lu Zhou to stay away from Tan Su, who was not easy to mess with. On the car, Lu Zhou asked Yang Qi directly if he knew Su Ji's boyfriend. Yang Qi confirmed that he knew him too well, recounting that in 11th grade, Tan Su had a disagreement with a classmate and spread false rumors, causing the person to be isolated and drop out of school. Even more shockingly, he submitted a diagnosis of depression, but it was actually a forged document. At the Fuyu Inn, Su Ji and Kai Ying had also just arrived. She happened to run into Uncle Fu, a friend of her father, and the two chatted happily. Meanwhile, Xing Qi was causing trouble with the inn, complaining that the drinking water was hard to swallow. But Uncle Fu retorted that it was pure spring water, and to make it easier to drink, they could boil it. The mischievous boy refused to give in, even pretending to worry about getting kidney stones, leaving Uncle Fu speechless. Not stopping there, Xing Qi also called his brother for help. Just then, Lu Zhou walked in and was surprised to see Su Ji. Yang Qi whispered that it wasn't a coincidence. A few days ago, Kai Ying had texted him, and it turned out she was setting this up. Su Ji explained that she came here because Uncle Fu was a friend of her father and asked about Lu Zhou's parents in return. He replied coldly that his parents weren't coming, stunning her. The whole purpose of her trip was to meet his mother, and now that hope seemed to vanish. Even so, she didn't give up. She actively suggested becoming WeChat friends to make it easier to contact each other during the vacation. But at that moment, Xing Qi pulled him away to resolve the drinking water issue, causing her efforts to fail once again. Suddenly, Yang Qi texted Kai Ying, reporting that Lu Zhou was asking if Su Ji was free, he might go down the mountain to buy purified water with him. Hearing this, Kai Ying immediately accepted on behalf of her friend, then urged Su Ji to take advantage of this opportunity. On the way, she tried to attract attention by showing her fondness for things that he was interested in, but the result was still silence. Lu Zhou handed her his phone to look up a map of the road down the mountain. While holding the phone in one hand, she secretly texted Kai Ying with the other, asking if there was any other way to meet his mother. The answer stunned her. Kai Ying said the only way was to become his girlfriend. As if in reflex, she turned to ask him if he had a girlfriend. Lu Zhou casually replied, "Not yet." Lu Zhou's phone suddenly vibrated, displaying a message from someone named Google with affectionate content. The girl confessed that she missed him, wondering if he was still angry at her, and admitting that her feelings for him had almost driven her crazy. He quickly explained that she wasn't his girlfriend. Su Ji glanced at the screen, praising the phone background photo as beautiful. It was a picture taken when he participated in a basketball game. Hearing about basketball, a memory suddenly rushed in her mind. That day, she had planned to ask him to give a bottle of water to the gym representative, but he didn't hear her, accidentally grabbed it and drank it, then turned to thank her. Now she realized that the person that day was him, making her burst out laughing. It seemed that he was still as innocent and confident as he used to be. After buying the water, Xing Qi called to urge him to buy some stir-fried frog. Hearing this, Su Ji took the initiative to lead him to buy it. Lu Zhou thought that her thoughtfulness was a sign that she had feelings for him, making him both excited and confused. He was about to speak up and ask directly when suddenly a group of playful children ran past. Just then, Tan Su appeared. Both Su Ji and Lu Zhou saw him. Su Ji immediately left to find Tan Su to talk. She hoped he wouldn't continue to be so gloomy. In 11th grade, when her father fell into depression, it was an unintentional sentence from Tan Su that had lifted her up, that there was no real despair in this world. But now he didn't want to listen anymore. He blamed her for being preachy, emphasizing that she was born at the finish line and shouldn't show her superiority to others. Tan Su suspected that she came here to definitively draw a line because she had another man. Su Ji simply replied that there had never been a romantic relationship between them to break up. But Tan Su felt that because he didn't do well on the exam and she had found someone better, she was planning to brush away the past. He thought that the relationship between them was a given, needing no words, that what he had helped her with was part of his feelings. In response, Suji resolutely said that her gratitude didn't mean that she had to love him. Then she coldly questioned him whether he really had been depressed, whether he dared to admit that he was manipulating other people's emotions. Having said that, she turned and left. With a frustrated mood, she sat down to eat with Lu Zhou. He noticed her discomfort, guessing that she had just argued with someone. She vaguely replied that it wasn't exactly an argument, just a few warnings to the other person so he wouldn't pester her anymore. Taking the opportunity, she suggested becoming WeChat friends with him. Lu Zhou pondered. Having just broken up and already wanted to be this close, was it too soon? Her feelings were hard to guess, but he still took out his phone, accepting the friend request. Immediately afterwards, she said something that made him choke on his water. "Now that we're friends, when can I come to your house?" He had said that after becoming WeChat friends, she could come over to play, to sit on the special chair that she had heard mentioned. He could only be speechless and had to explain that his mom was busy with work at the TV station lately and didn't have free time, otherwise she wouldn't have thrown her darling, which is him, to others to look after. Hearing this, she just smiled lightly, saying, "Then another time?" He wondered if he was playing the role of a third party at this moment. After returning to her room, Suji showed off her successful WeChat friendship to Kaiying. Kaiying immediately created a private chat group with 4 people, and the whole group chatted happily. On the other side, Yang Qi was struggling to find a charging cable when Lu Zhou said that he had lent it to Suji. Hearing this, Yang Qi immediately told him to get it back. When he texted, Suji replied that she had forgotten the charging cable at the restaurant and promised to buy a new one later. Yang Qi immediately suspected that this was a trick, thinking that Suji was deliberately setting up situations to create opportunities to be near Lu Zhou. At that moment, Lu Zhou suddenly confessed that it seemed like Suji and Tan Su had broken up. He didn't understand why he couldn't refuse her, and even felt a little uncomfortable. Yang Qi analyzed that it was precisely because Suji had a boyfriend that the feeling of being secretive attracted him. Although the girls who pursued Lu Zhou in the past were also very pretty, he refused them decisively. But the difference with Suji was that she already had someone else, and the feeling of conquering in secret was what made his heart flutter. Lu Zhou was eating breakfast when he received a text message from Suji asking him to meet her at the cafeteria to discuss something. Without hesitation, he agreed. When he arrived, he was surprised to see that she had brought Uncle Feng, whom he had met when he was little. It turned out that Uncle Feng needed someone to shoot a promotional clip for his tea garden, and hoped Lu Zhou could help. At first, he refused because he was haunted by an experience from years ago. When he was little, he was surrounded and kissed by everyone just because of his handsome appearance, making him feel like he was being forced to sell his looks to make money. But when he learned that Uncle Feng only wanted him to help with filming using photography equipment, not to act in the advertisement, he nodded in agreement. The shooting that day was carried out right in the tea garden. Suji and Kaiying took on the roles of models, while Lu Zhou held the camera to shoot. But it seemed that his lens had a tendency to lean to one side. He photographed Suji much more than Kaiying. When reviewing the photos, Kaiying immediately recognized the obvious bias. Suji had a series of beautiful frontal photos, while she didn't even have one that was decent. So she forced him to retake them properly. While twisting and posing, Kaiying was suddenly hit by some paintings falling from above. It turned out that Yang Qi was teaching Xing Qi to draw upstairs. The two were arguing, and it was Xing Qi who had thrown the paintings down in anger. When he understood, Lu Zhou immediately made Xing Qi apologize. But the stubborn child refused, so he had to say, "If you don't apologize, then I'll apologize for you, and you go pack your things and go home." Those words made Xing Qi think he was being abandoned, and he angrily cried and left. Kaiying witnessed everything and waved her hand, saying that he didn't need to apologize anymore. Just edit the photos to make her look thinner. Afterwards, she turned to Suji, blurting out that the fact that Lu Zhou was adopted was entirely possible, because his younger brother was so bossy, clearly not like someone in the family at all. Hearing this, Suji wondered what his mother was like. She left the tea garden and wandered alone. Coincidentally, she overheard a phone conversation between him and his mother. It turned out that Lu Zhou was about to study abroad. When he discovered that she had been standing nearby for a while, he looked displeased. Although she insisted that she didn't intentionally eavesdrop, this wasn't the first time. making him unable to believe her. Finally, she quietly went to sit next to him on the swing. In a moment of silence, she softly said that she really admired him because at least he could still be scolded by his mother. Although the scolding was sometimes harsh, it was still concern somewhere. Hearing this, he softly admitted that what she said wasn't wrong, but also mentioned some relatives who, from the beginning, had used exchange to shape affection. When he was little, Lu Zhou had asked his mother whether she had brought him from the orphanage just to prevent misfortune for his younger brother. At that time, his mother only said that whether it was true or not didn't matter. If he wanted to stay by her side forever, he should stay obediently in this house, listening to his grandmother and father. From that answer, he gradually understood that all the love he had received was conditional. His parents raised him, it turned out, only for the sake of someone else, Xing-Qi. Even forcing him to study abroad didn't stem from expectations for him, but was just a repayment for the kindness of his presence in that family. Lu Zhou opened his heart a little, and his words made Su Ji gradually understand him better. A boy who seemed arrogant, but hid too many wounds. She decided to take him away from those heavy emotions, leading him to a familiar place of her own. On the journey, she and he walked along long roads, letting him relax his mind in the gentle rhythm of life. Reaching a stop, she picked a lucky petal and placed it in his hand as a way to pass on faith. Now, he also had something like her, a small object, but carrying something truly sincere. After that, she invited him to drink alcohol, saying that alcohol could help people easily say things that were hard to say. Hearing this, Lu Zhou briefly thought perhaps she was about to confess her feelings to him. That night, he arrived at the meeting place. Although he didn't drink alcohol, he still said that he had partly guessed what she wanted to say. Su Ji smiled, then suddenly said that they should continue after Kai Ying arrived. The statement was like a bucket of cold water thrown straight on his expectations. He thought that moment would be a confession, but it turned out that what she wanted was just to meet his mother. At that moment, he suddenly remembered her previous questions. They all revolved around his mother. A feeling of disappointment rose up. He asked what the real purpose was if she had used every way to approach him. At that time, Kai Ying interjected, saying that if the condition for meeting his mother was to become Lu Zhou's girlfriend, then Su Ji would definitely accept. The statement made everything even more complicated. Su Ji quickly explained that she didn't mean it that way, not narcissistic enough to think she was special in his eyes. Before, she wanted to become WeChat friends with him, only because she wanted to meet his mother. Lu Zhou, although a little disappointed, still reassured himself that perhaps this was a new type of courting that she was trying to apply. He then asked why she broke up with her boyfriend. Kai Ying interrupted at this time, telling a different truth. Su Ji didn't have a boyfriend at all. It was all a play to lure him to eat with the group. Su Ji then recounted the real reason. His mother's voice was exactly like her mother's, the one she had lost, so she really wanted to meet her. Hearing this, Lu Zhou pondered for a moment, then said that if she needed it, being his girlfriend was fine too. But Su Ji only smiled and said, "If you don't mind, just pretend to be my boyfriend when the time comes." The statement was so innocent that he was speechless. Returning home, Yang Qi constantly teased him. In the past, Lu Zhou had always been the one being pursued, but this time he ran into a skillful opponent, leaving him not even a chance to refuse. Annoyed, he sat alone looking at Su Ji's WeChat news, then suddenly received a message from her. But the content was only that Kai Ying had forgotten her bag at the bar, asking if anyone had seen it, and now it had been found. Reading that, he threw his phone aside, sighing and mocking himself. I really shouldn't expect anything from her. The next morning, he brought the demo advertisement to show Uncle Fu. Uncle Fu was very satisfied after watching it, and immediately agreed to use this version. As the two were talking, Su Ji came down, and as soon as he saw her, he made an excuse to leave. He sat in a small shop nearby, inadvertently hearing Uncle Fu tell Su Ji that he had been talking happily with Lu Zhou just now, but as soon as he saw her appear, he left. He suspected that maybe he didn't like her, but Su Ji only lightly replied that he probably had something urgent to leave. Lu Zhou heard those words. An indescribable emotion suddenly rose in his heart. If she didn't like him, then why did she still defend him like that? He unintentionally heard her dream of passing the entrance exam to Qing University. Returning to his room, he immediately called his mother, intending to say that a friend needed help, but before he could finish, his mother hurriedly hung up because she was busy with work. His emotions were interrupted, and he returned to the computer screen, editing the video. However, Each frame with her appearing made him stunned, his heart rising with an indescribable emotion. When Xing-Chi and Yang-Chi returned, the noise startled him awake, and he quickly closed the tab that was open. Xing-Chi complained that he was bitten all over by mosquitoes while sitting outside drawing. So he told his younger brother to take a shower, and he would ask if anyone had brought any medicine to borrow. Xing-Chi playfully teased that he was just taking this opportunity to flirt with girls, then mentioned the incident at the bar yesterday. The microphone echoing like thunder made the whole resort hear it. Being reminded of the embarrassing incident, he nervously texted Suji, asking if she brought any anti-itch cream. She quickly replied, agreeing to meet him in the lobby. When he went down to the lobby, he saw her intently admiring the fish tank and unconsciously smiled again. Taking the medicine from her hand, he followed her to dinner. During the meal, he asked about her university aspirations. She replied that she wanted to stay in this city and enter the architecture department of Tsinghua University. Hearing this, he was surprised because with her projected scores, big cities like Shanghai or Beijing seemed like better choices, but he didn't question her choice. On the contrary, he thought that girls were even more suitable for architecture because works of art needed delicacy and to put a lot of emotions into it, something he thought girls did better. He also said that there was an underwater bookstore in the city designed by a female architect, implying that she could also achieve that. When she asked him if he studied art, he just smiled and replied that he was just a regular candidate. She was surprised because she had heard his mother mention that his exam scores weren't good. He admitted that it was due to a small accident that the results weren't as expected. When she said she wanted to stay a little longer, he suspected that she wanted to secretly drink alcohol. She joked that he should become a criminal police officer. He replied that he wasn't suitable because he was too conspicuous and would be easily exposed if he was an undercover police officer, making her laugh at his narcissism. She also heard Kai-Ying say that he couldn't drink alcohol, just one glass and he would collapse. The next morning, while the group was eating breakfast, the news announced that tonight was the best time to watch the meteor shower, the Aries constellation. Kai-Ying immediately invited Su Ji to go with her and called the whole group, including Lu Zhou. Su Ji agreed. Then Kai-Ying texted Yang Qi to go too. Lu Zhou initially refused because he was still editing the video, but when he heard Yang Qi say that Su Ji also wanted to go because her mother was an Aries and she believed that deceased relatives would turn into shooting stars, he changed his mind. He changed his clothes, tried on a few pairs of shoes, causing Yang Qi to chuckle at his thorough preparation. When everyone was preparing to grill meat, Su Ji saw a grill, asking if it could be used again after washing it. He quickly stopped her, saying that the grill was left behind by other people and could be very dirty. Yang Qi, seeing that he was still holding Su Ji's hand, interrupted, teasing, "Has your friend been holding hands enough? His ears are red." The meteor finally appeared, a faint streak of light tearing across the quiet night sky, leaving a magical moment that made everyone hold their breath and make a wish. In the noisy murmuring, he unintentionally heard Su Ji's wish that she would earn a lot of money in the future. He couldn't help but laugh at its practicality and simplicity. He stood behind her, his eyes never leaving the figure of the little girl, carefully looking up at the night sky. Wanting to keep that moment, he called her to turn around, raised his camera, and captured her radiant smile. However, that smile made his heart skip a beat. He didn't say anything, just quietly watched her, letting an unconscious smile appear on his lips. When she happened to see him reviewing the photos he had just taken, she asked if she could have the photos to post on WeChat. He was surprised because she didn't usually post anything, but then he was caught out when she asked if he had ever seen her news feed. Flustered, he replied vaguely, but she casually said that she usually divided them into separate groups. He probably hadn't seen many of the posts, then suggested pulling him into her close friends group. He replied bluntly with a lazy tone, causing Kai-Ying to speak up and remind him of his attitude. Suddenly realizing that he had behaved incorrectly, he immediately apologized to Su Ji. When Kai-Ying and Yang Qi invited each other to go somewhere else, he and Su Ji sat down to talk longer. The two shared many things about themselves, about the secret thoughts that could only be said when the night was late and people's hearts calmed down. After watching the meteor shower together, the four of them returned. In the room, Yang Qi jokingly said to Lu Zhou that she and he seemed to be very compatible. Lu Zhou replied, "If Su Ji hasn't married after I come back from studying abroad, I will pursue her at all costs. Even if she's divorced, I wouldn't mind." Hearing this, Yang Qi wondered, "Aren't you thinking too far ahead? Because she clearly said that she has no feelings for you at all." Those words made Lu Zhou slightly annoyed. As for him, while strolling in the resort, he happened to run into Su Ji. The two invited each other to a small bar nearby. She caught him holding a cocktail, surprised why he was drinking alcohol. He just casually said that he wanted to get drunk once in the late night, making her laugh, thinking that a light cocktail couldn't possibly make him drunk. They continued to chat, sharing every little thing, until it rained, then returned together. When they got back, she offered to split the cost of the previous meal. Hearing this, he couldn't help but laugh, saying that if they were going to calculate like that, they should also calculate the cost of talking. He asked if she would also calculate so clearly with her lover in the future. She casually replied, "Of course, because you're not her lover. So these two things can't be equated." The morning was busy. He and his mother went to meet Mrs. Shui, Professor Zhang's wife, and her daughter, Su Hui. His mother seemed pleased with this meeting. She skillfully suggested that the two of them could support each other while studying abroad. Before leaving, she also told him to pick up his dad at the airport and conveniently take Su Hui to the cinema. He had no choice but to sigh and accept. This quickly reached Yang Qi's ears, who didn't hesitate to tell Kai Ying, shocking both Kai Ying and Su Ji, thinking that he was going on a blind date. However, in reality, Su Hui already had a boyfriend. She just hoped that going abroad with her boyfriend later would be smooth and asked him to keep everything a secret. She promised not to bother him when they were in a foreign land. Soon after, Su Hui's boyfriend came to pick her up. At this time, he received a call from Yang Qi and asked if he had told Su Ji that he had gone on a blind date or not. Yang Qi confirmed, and even added that Su Ji, after hearing the story, had reacted violently, accusing him of lying, saying he was going to an interview, but in the end went to meet someone else. She also mentioned the cooperation with Xing Qi and asked if he wasn't going to continue, she would take over. He just laughed, muttering to himself that she should keep dreaming. With a confused heart, he composed a message, intending to ask her if she disliked him, even just a little, but in the end he didn't dare to send it, and quietly deleted it. In another scene, three people, Su Ji, Kai Ying, and Yang Qi, were sitting playing cards when they suddenly saw Jiaxi appear with another girl. Not missing the opportunity, they secretly took photos, sending them to Cherishing to expose his true colors and prevent further love scams. When Jiaxi was being sweet with the new girl, he was called by Cherishing to question him. He made an excuse to go outside to answer the phone, but the girl was no less intelligent, secretly following him, snatching the phone and turning on the speaker. From the conversation, she immediately realized that Jiaxi was a liar, not hesitating to scold him harshly and threatening to call the police. Looking inside the shop, seeing the three girls watching him, Jiaxi angrily rushed in to question them. Kai Ying was not afraid at all and frankly admitted that they had exposed him. He tried to pull Kai Ying outside but was stopped by Yang Qi. Feeling unable to fight all three, he angrily left. After picking up his dad from the airport, his dad announced that he had completed the arrangements with the school abroad and even bought him an apartment near the school. He could only thank him, and an indescribable feeling rose in his heart. That afternoon, it rained again. He returned to the place where he had sheltered from the rain with Su Ji the other day, standing quietly under the eaves, watching each raindrop fall, letting the memories flood back. He took out his phone, quietly browsing through her old posts on WeChat, as if wanting to understand more about her through each small thought. Just then, Yang Qi called, teasingly asking if he had reached the mountain and conveniently telling him to buy some food to bring back because they were all about to starve. He smiled lightly, agreed, and continued to drive. Soon after, Su Ji called again, urging to ask where he had arrived. He reported that he was about half an hour away, and she said that the other two had fallen asleep first. Anyway, he should meet her at the dining hall downstairs. The dining hall was full at this time. Not wanting to waste the drinks, the two decided to go to a movie. However, all screenings were sold out, leaving only a private theater room for couples. Even so, Su Ji didn't hesitate to walk into the theater with a calm expression, and he quietly followed behind, his heart filled with a feeling that was unclear whether it was embarrassment or excitement. Realizing that, she softly asked, as if wanting to probe whether his mood was related to the blind date he had been on. He slowly explained that it wasn't his intention at all. His mother had secretly arranged it, introducing a girl for him to take care of when he went abroad. But in the end, that girl had a boyfriend, making him feel like he had been put into a prearranged play. She just smiled, saying that she wasn't that curious and wasn't interested in his private matters. She simply felt that he was a little strange today, always wearing a hesitant and distant look. Hearing this, he suddenly asked her if she had ever thought about her ideal type of boyfriend. She replied that she had never set a specific model, only believing in fate. However, she frankly admitted that she was quite superficial, liked smart people, and it would be even better if the person made a lot of money. She didn't like clueless people. Even if they were handsome, it would be difficult to catch her eye. He laughed and asked, "If that's the case, how do you guess who's smart? Do you have to test their IQ before loving someone?" She laughed again, confessing that she was just living according to her feelings. Sometimes turning points like the college entrance exam were enough to help people distinguish who had aspirations and who didn't. But she also made it clear that she wasn't referring to him because he had studied at the most prestigious high school in the city. The movie ended in silence. On the way back, she said that she would have to go down a mountain tomorrow because a storm was coming. Her father was switching to the night shift, so she couldn't leave her grandmother alone at home. She had just received a project that needed a photographer in the city next door and wanted to ask him to help. Although she told him to set his price, she also told him not to overcharge. He didn't refuse. The next morning, she returned home. During the meal, her father suggested that she study at Peking University. He said that he was used to living alone and knew how to take care of himself. He also gave her a bank card, saying that the amount inside was enough for her to study up to a doctorate, telling her to feel free to pursue her dreams and think carefully. Meanwhile, Lu Zhou was at a photo development shop with Yang Qi. He confided that since leaving the mountain, he had always been wondering why he had feelings for that girl. It might be partly due to love at first sight, but mostly it was a feeling of being attracted by something he couldn't reach. Yang Qi commented that it was precisely because she didn't care about him like other girls, didn't admire him, didn't chase after him, that made him feel strange. Yang Qi even suspected that she was only approaching him because of his mother. Lu Zhou nodded, saying that sometimes he thought so too. Sometimes he thought she was pretending to be naive, but sometimes he clearly felt that she really didn't know anything. However, he didn't want to guess anymore. The trip abroad was approaching, and there probably wouldn't be anything between them. Because of that, he made the excuse of being busy to refuse the photo shoot that he had agreed to. At the same time, a female student happened to recognize him, running over to ask for his autograph. That action accidentally let Kai Ying know that he had returned to his old school. She immediately shared the information to Su Ji, then wondered if Lu Zhou really considered them friends. Although they had known each other for a long time, it seemed that everyone was keeping a separate circle for themselves. At the same time, Lu Zhou didn't hesitate to face Tansu directly in a basketball game. But Tansu didn't play fair. He deliberately used tricks to injure Lu Zhou, who had to be hospitalized. Unexpectedly, the person who came to examine him was Su Ji's father. Su Ji's father happened to read the name Lu Zhou on the patient list. That familiar name had not only appeared in his daughter's WeChat news, but also aroused special attention. When faced with the young man, he began to inquire carefully about his family background, hometown, parents' occupation, and whether he had any siblings. Although he answered fully, Lu Zhou couldn't hide his questions, asking if those questions had anything to do with the examination. After that, he was invited into the examination room. At the end of the examination, the doctor didn't say much, just handed him 2 tubes of medicine, making him even more confused. Yang Qi thought that perhaps Su Ji's father was implicitly suggesting a bribe, because this was an issue related to Lu Zhou's future, and offered to buy an envelope for him. However, he only asked him to pay the hospital fees. When he returned to the examination room, Lu Zhou asked for permission to leave first, because he was feeling pain and wanted a rest. He said he would return for a re-examination next week. The doctor agreed, but told him not to come back if he felt better in just a day or two, but if he hadn't recovered, he had to come. He also emphasized that he should not think about romance for the time being, because he believed that his illness was not due to external factors, but the result of uncontrolled fun. In his eyes, Lu Zhou's image had completely collapsed. As soon as he left, Kai Ying's father also arrived at the hospital, immediately gossiping. He commented that Lu Zhou had a bright appearance and was only 19 years old. But when Su Ji's father opened the medical record and found an envelope clipped in it, he immediately took it to the disciplinary committee for processing. On the other side, Su Ji informed Kai Ying that she had asked another photographer to replace Lu Zhou. Today's shoot was at a restaurant where the owner hired them to write advertising articles. However, the food was too terrible, making it impossible for her to swallow, and now she understood why the owner wanted to run the media. Just then, Lu Zhou unexpectedly texted her, asking to meet. When she learned that he was in this city because he had agreed to photograph the motorcycle team for Uncle Fu, she blamed him for having time to take on work for others. But her request was rejected. He simply replied that the other party paid more. Hearing this, she sighed in frustration, expressing that she couldn't earn money by writing flattering articles for terrible restaurants, because she didn't want to go against her conscience. Lu Zhou reassured her that earning money wasn't as important as whether or not she wanted to do it. If she felt it went against her conscience, it was best to go home. The opportunity to earn money would always be there. Hearing this, she confessed that she had originally planned to leave the city, but after that message, she changed her mind. She wanted to see him photograph the motorcycle team, and he agreed on the condition that she didn't wear a dress. Before saying goodbye, she still split the cost of the meal with him. That action made Lu Zhou wonder. While preparing for the motorcycle photo shoot, he asked a friend what it meant when a girl actively split the bill. The friend replied, "If she has feelings, one is to let you pay, and the other is for her to pay the whole thing. So there's a reason to meet again next time. Unless she splits it, this means she wants to cut off contact, right?" He was also surprised to learn that there was still a girl who wasn't interested in Lu Zhou because he had always been surrounded by admiration. But to Lu Zhou, Suji wasn't like anyone else. She wasn't ordinary, but interesting. Suddenly, he received a message from Suji asking if she could bring Kai-Ying with her tomorrow. He agreed, but immediately after, she texted again. "So, can our photographer come too?" The words made him stop, thinking to himself, "So fast, we already?" But he still replied simply as usual. Feeling the indifference, Suji tossed and turned, unable to sleep, wondering if he found it inconvenient. Then tomorrow could be skipped, and she should focus on work first. He asked her what she was doing, and when he learned that she was reading his WeChat news, he smiled. Before ending the conversation, he promised that if she came tomorrow, he would pick her up in person. The next morning, she arrived, and he was already waiting. Feng Jin, as soon as she saw him, showed extreme excitement, unable to hide her joy at meeting the famous photographer with many awards. She introduced herself as a classmate of Zhang Yangqi, her admiring eyes never leaving him. Because he was busy with the shoot, Kai-Ying and Su Ji waited inside. When Feng Jin brought food in, he curiously asked Su Ji what Lu Zhou majored in, but Su Ji only gave a short answer, denying their closeness. Just then, Lu Zhou walked in and heard it, his face slightly sad, with disappointment clearly visible. Realizing the atmosphere was a bit awkward, Kai-Ying quickly pulled Feng Jin away, making an excuse to buy drinks to create a private space for the two. While eating, Lu Zhou was so upset that he couldn't eat and ran out to close the door, accidentally asking Su Ji about her relationship with Feng Jin. When he heard her reply that she wasn't close to Zhang Yangqi either, he became even more angry. He thought that she was close to everyone, except him. From watching the meteor shower together, drinking alcohol, to him taking her to work, wasn't all of that enough for her to consider him close? Su Ji then explained that the reason she didn't split the money with Feng Jin was because the costs for today were being refunded, not because it had any private meaning. Hearing that, he softened. She joked that his sulking attitude scared her, as if he was breaking chopsticks was breaking her bones. She admitted that she had never said she was close to him because she hadn't really understood him. Su Ji was about to tell a joke to coax him, but before she could say anything, Kai-Ying pulled her away because there was a good opportunity to earn money. Right then, he received a message from a friend asking him to pick up his sister at the gate. The sister wanted to register for a race because the prize was up to 5,000 yuan, but when she learned that non-official members would not receive the prize, she gave up the idea. When passing by a room, she accidentally overheard Lu Yang speaking ill of Lu Zhou with harsh words. Feng Jin couldn't restrain herself and walked in to question him. Su Ji didn't say anything more, only calmly issued a challenge. If she beat Lu Yang in a race, he just had to hand over the prize money. But if she lost, she accepted the requirement to apologize to Lu Zhou in front of everyone. In another corner, the younger sister of Lu Zhou's friend whined for him to buy her ice cream, but he only transferred 8 yuan, then left her to do whatever she wanted. Just then, he received a call reporting that Su Ji was about to compete with Lu Yang to determine the winner. The race quickly began. Lu Zhou couldn't sit still, his eyes never leaving her every movement. The chase became more intense than ever. Su Ji's driving technique was extremely skillful because she had been personally trained by Yu Qing, the most famous racer in the province from before. She chose a longer racetrack to observe Lu Yang's driving habits, thereby understanding his weaknesses. When she understood his tactics, she immediately accelerated, soaring towards the finish line. But at that moment, Lu Yong played dirty, crashing straight into her motorcycle. Both were thrown into the middle of the road, and Lu Zhou immediately ran over, not hesitating to carry her away from the scene. The humiliating defeat of Lu Yong, known for his dirty tactics and talking behind people's backs. The race ended with a decisive victory for Su Ji. In the locker room, Lu Zhou carefully disinfected her wounds. He was still worried about her recklessness, risking everything just for a 5,000 yuan reward. To others, that amount was small, but for Su Ji, it was enough for her to travel back and forth between Qing'an and Beijing many times. Suddenly, Li Tong's younger sister ran over and gave him a box of ice cream. He explained that because the little girl had been begging for ice cream, he bought her one and also bought one for Su Ji. Seeing this, she teased him that he seemed to be friendly with everyone. He gently replied that her ice cream was only 8 yuan, while Su Ji's was a whole 80 yuan. So who do you think he's closer to? The atmosphere between them was both warm and teasing, to the point that he provocatively asked if he gave her 5,000 yuan to kiss him. Would she agree? Su Ji replied without any hesitation, saying that even a second of hesitation would be disrespectful to that amount of money. He was speechless at her adorable greed for money, but before leaving, he didn't forget to remind her that she still owed him a joke. Outside, Feng Jin eagerly asked to take a picture with his idol. Just then, Lu Yong appeared and unexpectedly apologized to Lu Zhou. This action left him completely confused, not understanding what was happening. Feng Jin then revealed that when Lu Zhou went outside, Su Ji caught Lu Yong talking bad about him. She couldn't stand it and immediately rushed out to challenge him. As a result, Lu Yong lost terribly, losing both his prize money and having to bow his head and apologize. Knowing the truth, Lu Zhou couldn't help but laugh emotionally. It started to rain, and he quickly called Su Ji, reminding her that his umbrella was in the backpack she was carrying. He also added that Lu Yong had just apologized to him. She replied that it was just convenient, so she made him apologize, mainly because she wanted to take the prize money, but no matter what she said, he still felt warm inside. The bitter defeat caused Lu Yong to go crazy, smashing things in the locker room. But Li Tong had to work hard to clean up, lamenting that he always thought Su Ji was a gentle girl, but he didn't expect her to be so fierce and unpredictable. That statement made Lu Zhou thoughtful, and a slight feeling of emotion began to invade his mind. He wanted to text her a few lines to express his feelings, saying that he wanted to be with her for a long time, but he deleted it because he was too shy. Li Tong then sent the helmet to Lu Zhou, asking him to give it to Su Ji. He said that she was so cool that he admired her. At the same time, Yang Qi was in his room when he saw a photo that Feng Jin posted of him eating with Kaiying. Without thinking, he immediately pulled out his suitcase and joined the fun. The next morning, Lu Zhou and Su Ji accidentally ran into each other in the hotel lobby. She had just stepped out of the elevator when he stopped her. Knowing that she was going to buy digestive medicine for Kaiying, he took her up to his room because he already had medicine in his suitcase. Not only that, but he also took Li Tong's helmet and gave it back to her. Hearing that the helmet was signed by the future Grand Slam player, she could only smile slightly at the way Li Tong praised himself. When he saw that she didn't say anything more, he thought to himself about the joke she promised the day before. But then he stopped, silently giving her a bottle of antiseptic spray. Seeing her rummaging through her bag to transfer the money back, he immediately became serious, saying that if she mentioned money again, they were practically strangers. She teased him that if he kept acting like that, he'd easily get pimples when he got older. He replied that he was the one driving her to the racetrack today. If something happened to her with Lu Yong, how would he explain it to her dad and Uncle Fu? Su Ji softened her voice, saying that he didn't need to worry. Her dad and Uncle Fu both thought falling off a bike was normal. She had fallen before, but it left a slight after effect, causing arthritis in her leg. She chattered like a sparrow as she spoke, but seeing that he was still angry, she proactively mentioned the debt, saying that she owed him another joke for a total of 2. Hearing that, he finally laughed, not because of the promised joke, but because she still remembered. She said that 2 days ago, a handsome young man came to her dad's department for a checkup. Although he was praised for his outstanding appearance, the man's health was not good. He insisted that he was fine, but he couldn't pass any of the tests. Su Ji's dad, who was an andrologist, criticized the current generation of young people for staying up late, smoking, and drinking alcohol, which caused their health to decline. When he heard this, Lu Zhou immediately realized that he was the person and asked more about her dad's impression. Suji said that her dad even instructed that if he had a daughter in the future, he should definitely bring her boyfriend for a checkup first. Hearing that, Lu Zhou became tense, but she reassured him that he lived a disciplined life and probably wouldn't have those problems. However, before they could say anything more, a security guard suddenly entered the room, suspecting Lu Zhou of being a paparazzi, sneaking into the hotel, causing everything to become chaotic. At the same time, Kaiying had a stomach ache while in the marketing area and luckily met Yangqi. Guyan suddenly appeared and announced that Lu Zhou was in trouble. The group rushed to the scene. There, Suji quickly explained that Lu Zhou was her classmate, who had just finished college entrance exams. His mom was a television producer, and his dad was the owner of the Bo Hui movie complex, so he definitely wasn't a tabloid reporter. Hearing that, Basu immediately changed his tone and blamed the security staff for misunderstanding. Wanting to give Lu Zhou and Gu Yin some private time, the group went outside. During this time, Yangqi revealed to Su Ji that Gu Yin had strong feelings for Lu Zhou. When he returned to the room and didn't see Gu Yin, Su Ji gave Lu Zhou 2 cups of milk tea, saying it was to avoid waste. Knowing that she bought milk tea for Gu Yin, he suddenly became angry and left, leaving Kaiying confused as to why Lu Zhou was angry at Su Ji. That night, Lu Zhou sat in the room staring at the 2 cups of milk tea, remembering the conversation he had with Gu Yin that morning. During that conversation, Gu Yin realized that he liked Su Ji, but when he asked for her feelings, Lu Zhou didn't dare to answer. The next morning, Lu Zhou went to the hospital for a follow-up examination with Su Ji's father. Although his health indicators were stable, he still told him not to mess around and to know how to control himself. Feeling misunderstood, Lu Zhou hurriedly swore that he was still a virgin, but he didn't care at all, even taking out the envelope from the day before and asking about it. Lu Zhou angrily turned to scold Yangqi for coming up with a stupid idea that made him be suspected. In another development, Su Ji and Kaiying were trying to sell things on the street, from screen protectors to manicures, but they hadn't sold anything for days. One day, a man came to buy something, but he deliberately criticized the product. When she retorted that these were rose seeds, not sunflower seeds as he said, he got angry because he was embarrassed in front of his girlfriend. Immediately afterwards, his girlfriend left, and he wanted to smash the goods. Lu Zhou appeared just in time to push his hand away and sit down to do his nails as if he didn't care. This action made the man angry and left. As Lu Zhou was still getting his nails done, he unexpectedly ran into his mom and some employees surveying the area. The company employees recognized him as a famous hotshot and thought he was doing something to win over his girlfriend, so they started taking pictures. His mom saw this and shooed them away, reminding them that dog bites man stories get more traction, so everyone finally left. Suji finally had a chance to meet Lu Zhou's mom, but in an unexpected situation, when his mom appeared, she immediately demanded that he remove the nail polish. She took him aside to talk privately. His mom coldly announced that all the procedures for studying abroad were complete and didn't give him a chance to object. He tried to persuade her that he could study at a domestic university, even in a field that few people study, even promising not to take anything from Jishan, just wanted to stay in China. But it was all in vain. She didn't care about her husband's opinion, let alone the relationship between him and that girl, only hoping that the two of them would end things before he went abroad. That statement caused Lu Zhou to quietly leave in the heavy rain. At the same time, Suji noticed that he had forgotten his phone, so she grabbed an umbrella to find him. Catching up with him in the rain, she held the umbrella for him and quietly walked beside him. When they returned to the room, while she was shifting the table to plan how to make money, Lu Zhou suddenly said that he had 5 million yuan and asked if she wanted to earn some. Although surprised, she still said she wanted to earn it legally. So he replied that with such a large sum of money, the only legal way was to get married. Su Ji brushed it off, saying that they weren't old enough to get married yet. The atmosphere suddenly became silent. She looked at the lipstick mark on the glass of water she had just drunk and was unhappy that he had also drunk from it. But he only said that he was the one who was worse off. Then, remembering the 5,000 yuan for the kiss the day before, he jokingly said that this time it was reduced to 2,500 yuan, asking her to transfer it. Suji laughed, picked up the water glass, and replied, "Then we'll call it even." It was still raining heavily, and they both sat watching a movie, but because of the alcohol in his system, Lu Zhou began to feel sleepy. Suji told him to go to the room to rest, while she stayed behind. On the other side, Kai Ying and Yang Qi were eating hot pot and talking about Su Ji and Lu Zhou. Yang Qi was talkative and even told the story of the blue chair that Lu Zhou had prepared specifically for Su Ji. Hearing that, Kai Ying texted Su Ji to ask if there was a blue chair at his house. She immediately went to look, and sure enough, the blue chair was right in front of the door. Memories flooded back to the first day they met. He had said that if she wanted to be scolded, just call him, and he would leave the chair outside the door. She sat down and laughed. The next morning, Lu Zhou woke up and saw a glass of ginger water on the table with a note from Su Ji. She had secretly prepared a cold remedy for him, not forgetting to remind him to remove the nail polish. He laughed and quietly drank the glass of water. And Su Ji, as soon as she woke up, saw that he had posted the glass of ginger water on Weibo. She read the comments between him and Yang Qi and laughed. Going outside, she saw her dad struggling to fix the internet, so she asked Lu Zhou to go to the internet cafe to check her exam scores. When the results appeared, the score of 738 surprised him greatly. Knowing that she had a high score, she asked about his exam score, and it turned out that he got 713. Although she congratulated him, for him, not exceeding 750 was considered a failure. Su Ji pretended to be sad when she got home, causing her dad to think his daughter was disappointed. And he quickly comforted her, saying that Qing University was good too, and it was close to home and her parents. But when he heard that his daughter scored 738, he burst into happiness, shouting everywhere to show off his daughter. In the evening, she brought a bunch of delicious food to Lu Zhou's house, wanting to discuss the college application process. Just as they were talking, Tan Si's parents passed by, causing Lu Zhou to help her avoid them. In a loving gaze, he didn't take his eyes off her until Yang Qi suddenly opened the door, breaking the atmosphere. The three of them prepared a small hot pot to celebrate the scores they achieved. Kai Ying asked everyone what school they wanted to go to. Su Ji chose Huguang or the University of Technology, and Yang Qi aimed for the Opera Academy. Hearing that, Kai Ying sighed, saying that she only got a little over 400 points, not enough to get into a provincial level school. She wanted to play games with Yang Qi to relax. Lu Zhou then called Su Ji into the room to talk privately. The two continued to discuss choosing schools. He was very thoughtful in giving a lot of reasonable advice. He also gave her the computer to look up information, but as soon as she opened it, she saw in the search history how to know if she's flirting with a lot of guys in Huguang University Architecture Department. After helping Su Ji look up school information, Lu Zhou noticed her gaze lingering on the violin. When he learned that he had studied it, Su Ji shared that her grandfather also knew how to play. Although he wasn't good, her grandmother really liked to listen. She promised that if they both lived to be 80 years old, she wanted to hear him play a song. Lu Zhou only smiled lightly, saying that by that time, he probably had a partner already and wouldn't have time to play the violin for her. After careful consideration, Su Ji decided to choose design as her major. Lu Zhou gave her the gift he had prepared in advance, the complete set of Le Corbusier books and architectural drawing tools. She was very grateful, thanking him repeatedly, but sadness also quietly crept in as they thought about him soon going abroad and the weekends they got to see each other becoming rare. The next morning, while playing billiards with Yang Qi, Lu Zhou was confident that Su Ji would pass the entrance exam to Huguang University and stay in Beijing. He asked his friend to watch over her, especially not to let her get bullied. Yang Qi joked that if Su Ji went on a date, he would send him photos of them holding hands and kissing on the beach. Lu Zhou replied with a faint smile, accepting the challenge. At the same time, Su Ji went shopping with Kai Ying. While her friend went out to buy water, she walked into another store and happened to see a very beautiful moon globe. She asked the employee to pack it and send it to an address in the city, which was Lu Zhou's residence. Just as she was paying, she met Tan Su, and the two chatted for a bit. Kai Ying came back and took a picture and sent it to Yang Qi to see, making him curious about the content of the conversation. When he learned that it seemed like they were talking about college applications, Yang Qi was worried that Tan Su wanted to study at the same school as Su Ji, so he told Lu Zhou. Looking at the photo of the two talking, Lu Zhou was silent, not saying a word. He then took his younger brother, Xing Qi, to ride the Ferris wheel, while he himself quietly walked through the city, accidentally seeing an old man playing the violin. The memory of Su Ji's promise at 80 years old came back involuntarily. That evening when he got home, Lu Zhou found a package sent from Qing Ni. It was the moon globe that Su Ji had chosen. Opening his phone, he saw that she had also posted about the moon with a familiar caption, which was the sentence he had sent and then withdrawn. It turned out that she had read it before he could delete it. Lu Zhou immediately called, pretending to scold her for daring to call him a swindler. Suji only laughed, teasing that she thought he was busy playing outside and didn't have time to browse the news. He then blamed her for seeing the unnecessary things clearly, but ignoring the most important post. When she looked closely again, she discovered that he had deliberately posted a picture of the person playing the violin as a subtle reminder of the promise from the other day. She then joked that if he was willing to practice the violin diligently, when they were both 80 years old, she would reward him with a few small coins. Lu Zhou then carefully wiped the violin in the room. Just then, his mom sent a message saying that there was a documentary shoot tomorrow at Block 3 with a fee of 2,000 yuan. He agreed to participate. Coincidentally, the next day was also when Su Ji, the top student of Ruei Jun High School, went to Block 3 with her classmates to shoot an interview with the TV station. Before the recording, Yi Jing, a student from the affiliated high school, struck up a conversation with Su Ji. He introduced Li Ku, the student with the best academic performance in the province. However, he added that Li Ku was not the best because there was a student in his class with outstanding scores. Just the required subjects, and adding 60 points of electives exceeded 750 points. Unfortunately, that person didn't come to the set today. Suji couldn't help but be surprised and admired such a genius. The recording began, bringing together outstanding faces from many provinces, and the atmosphere was very lively. However, during the recording, Li Ku's group spoke too much, causing Su Ji and Yi Jing's sharing to be overshadowed. On the car to the restaurant, Li Ku apologized for speaking so enthusiastically, causing the two to not have the opportunity to speak, but Su Ji didn't care. Li Ku then revealed that the genius friend he mentioned would be eating with him tonight. He also emphasized that if he hadn't missed the recent exam, Su Ji wouldn't be here, and Li Ku wouldn't be the top student. Hearing that, Su Ji said that in that case, he wouldn't be able to keep his top student spot either, making Li Ku awkwardly return to his seat. When Su Ji was sitting alone, someone unexpectedly came up and gave her a bottle of beer. It was Lu Zhou. The friends from her school recognized him and enthusiastically greeted him, calling him the hotshot of the school. It was then that Su Ji realized the truth. Lu Zhou was the genius everyone was talking about. Feeling like she had been deceived by him, she angrily left, not even bothering to look at him. Even though he called her back and invited her to sit across from him, she coldly walked away. When he saw her chatting happily with Yi Jing, his expression became obvious, full of jealousy. While the students from the number 1 high school gathered to take commemorative photos, Su Ji from Ruei Jun quietly sat watching. That evening, seeing her sitting alone, Lu Zhou approached, but she immediately left her spot. He chased after her, asking why she was avoiding him, but she only replied coldly, "You're stepping on my shadow." Hearing that, he quietly stepped back to let her step on his shadow. When she asked him what he was planning to do, he said that there would be fireworks behind the mountain at 8:30 and asked her to go with him. Su Ji still kept her angry expression, saying, "Who wants to go see them with you?" But then the two couldn't avoid teasing each other back and forth, gradually blending into the joyful and lively atmosphere of that evening. That evening, Lu Zhou took Su Ji to a spot to watch the fireworks. The two sat next to each other in a romantic atmosphere, like a real couple. The scene brought back memories of stargazing before. Su Ji took the opportunity to bring up the fact that he had hidden the fact that he had applied to the National University of Defense Technology. She blamed him for being too good at keeping secrets, almost letting her be fooled. Lu Zhou only laughed, saying that his mom used to say that he was the king of sarcasm, but now he thought she deserved the title more. She replied that her dad had also said that she was the kind of person who was two-faced since she was little. When the fireworks were about to start, Lu Zhou asked her if she wanted to hear him explain first or wait to see the fireworks. But Su Ji didn't need any explanation. She was just curious how he had achieved a raw score of 713 like him, and he calmly replied, "Just perform as usual," making her laugh at his excessive confidence. When asked why she was avoiding him, Su Ji frankly shared that she didn't want to be noticed by the friends who admired him, nor did she want to become the center of discussion because of her relationship with him. Just then, a brilliant display of fireworks burst in the sky, like the students' dreams of a bright future. In a lively atmosphere, Lu Zhou gave Su Ji a bottle of beer. When he saw her drinking it happily, he then asked if she would go out drinking with other people when she came to Beijing in the future. She calmly replied, "Definitely, causing him to instruct her to pay attention to safety and preferably not to go with guys. In response, she asked back whether he would drink with girls when he went abroad. He only laughed and said no, then snatched the beer bottle from her. The two struggled, accidentally dropping the beer bottle, and their faces were close together. That moment made Suji want to get closer to kiss him, but Lu Zhou shyly turned away, changing the subject to the fact that it was raining. Perhaps she herself didn't realize when she had started to like him. On the way back, Lu Zhou planned to text Suji to ask if she had gotten home yet, but he hesitated and didn't dare to send it. When he got home, he unconsciously took the shirt that smelled like her and sniffed it, as if wanting to hold on to the feeling he had just experienced. The next morning, Suji woke up and saw her dad watching her recording over and over. He said that he just wanted to choose a really good clip to show off to his colleagues. Then, he gave her tickets to see the ocean voyage. She was surprised because she had only asked for a computer, but he reminded her that there was a piece of paper in her room listing 10 wishes, and he and Uncle Fu had chosen the Golden Coast route to give her complete pleasure. Suji gratefully thanked her dad. On Lu Zhou's side, he saw a WeChat post from Kai Ying saying that she was traveling with Suji and Feng Jin. Just hearing the name Feng Jin was enough to make him reek of jealousy. In a cranky mood, he rushed to the basketball court. A dirty player constantly stepped on his shoes, causing him to remind him, but he was still deliberately provoked. After the basketball game, that guy then falsely accused Lu Zhou of bullying him, leading to a fight between the two groups. In the end, Yang Qi was the one who got injured, having to get his eyes checked, and he even took pictures and posted them on WeChat to show off his achievements. Kai Ying saw the photos and texted to ask about the situation. Yang Qi said that because Lu Zhou saw the post with Feng Jin, he got angry and raged on the basketball court. Suji, hearing that, only lightly commented how childish, then enjoyed the trip with her group of friends. At the same time, Yang Qi sat playing games, seeing Lu Zhou constantly staring at Suji's WeChat feed. He didn't understand why. Among so many people who liked Lu Zhou, he only cared about her. But for Lu Zhou, it had started very early on, from the day Suji stood by him during an argument, not caring about right or wrong, only firmly standing on his side. Just once was enough to make him remember forever. Yang Qi could only shake his head at his lovesick friend. Lu Zhou said that he would go abroad, try to complete his credits within 2 years, and then return home when he was financially independent. Hearing that, Yang Qi teased, "In 2 years, the flowers will have withered." But Lu Zhou only smiled sadly. If they wither, they wither. Anyway, I'm sure she'll forget me after I go abroad. Suji sat in a taxi, her eyes unintentionally stopping at a billboard showing the classic film Cherishing. The memories and emotions flooded back, making her want to ask Kai Ying to go see it, but unfortunately there were no more showings. But when they got home, Kai Ying unexpectedly received a strange text message, inviting her to click on a link to receive a reward. Without any suspicion, she clicked on it and unexpectedly received 2 tickets to see the very movie Suji loved. Overjoyed, she immediately showed Suji. The two decided to go to the Bo Hui movie theater together. When they entered the theater, they found that the entire space was empty except for them. A moment later, Lu Zhou quietly walked in, sitting in the row above, secretly observing Suji. Noticing that, Kai Ying made an excuse to go outside to take a phone call, creating some private space for the two. Suji, who was already sensitive, immediately realized the setup. She called him down to sit next to her, gave him her phone, and guessed right away that he had orchestrated everything. It turned out that when he learned that the theater would be showing Cherishing again, Lu Zhou had asked his dad to buy the tickets and then arranged a fake text message for Kai Ying to win the reward. Suji wasn't surprised at all, because she knew that not many people in Qing and I knew about the movie. The setup was so clumsy that only Kai Ying would believe it. The two began to argue lightly, with Lu Zhou reminding her that she had once wanted to ask him to go see the movie, asking if that invitation was still valid. Suji replied that he had already refused, and besides, he was the one who designed the Bo Hui Theater, so he could have gone to see it a long time ago if he wanted. He asked what he had to do to make it interesting for her. Suji casually said that watching a movie with someone who wasn't interesting wasn't appealing at all. When he pressed her about dating and kissing, she replied that dating wasn't interesting, kissing wasn't interesting. Only not dating, but kissing was memorable. Lu Zhou realized that she was teasing him and could only threaten that if she felt hurt later, she shouldn't cry. She laughed, gently replying that she would happily send him off on the plane. The next morning, Su Ji went to exercise and ran into Lu Zhou eating breakfast and secretly took a picture of him. When he caught her, she only laughed, while Lu Zhou mentioned that Yang Qi had once secretly photographed him and demanded ransom. Just then, Su Ji received a text message from Yang Qi reporting that Feng Jin would be going abroad next week and that they wanted to have a farewell party tonight. She asked Lu Zhou if he had set a date for his trip yet. He replied not yet, but he probably couldn't attend the party because he was busy filming a promotional video for the hospital. That evening at the farewell party, Su Ji and Kai Ying waited for their group of friends. Kai Ying took the opportunity to ask her about her relationship with Lu Zhou. Hearing that, Feng Jin suddenly turned around and asked who were dating. To distract them, Yang Qi pretended to stand up and admit that he and Kai Ying were in love, forcing the two of them to play the role of a couple to save the situation. Meanwhile, Lu Zhou was at home editing the video. He received a text message from Yang Qi reporting that Feng Jin was drunk and leaning his head on Su Ji's shoulder. He immediately became angry, ordering his friend to immediately pull Feng Jin away from Su Ji. That invisible jealousy was clear evidence of the feelings growing deeper within him. Later, Guyen went to the restaurant and unexpectedly ran into Su Ji, asking to talk privately. She shared her admiration for the silent, enduring love that Lu Zhou had for Su Ji and advised her to cherish that boy. After the conversation, Su Ji walked down the street and saw the advertisement for the movie Jurassic, which suddenly reminded her of the words Lu Zhou had said when they watched the movie together in the theater. She immediately called and invited him out for a late-night snack, and he readily agreed. They ate steamed buns together in the late-night scene, simple but warm. Lu Zhou seemed suspicious of her unusual behavior, but Su Ji only mentioned her upcoming birthday and asked if he was coming. Lu Zhou replied that he might be busy that day. In fact, he already knew the date of her birthday, but his mom had chosen that very day to host a farewell party before he went abroad. He had tried to persuade his mom to change the date, but it was unsuccessful. This made his mood heavy. On the evening of her birthday, Su Ji held a party at the bar with close friends. Meanwhile, Lu Zhou had to attend a family party where he didn't have a full moment of joy. His grandmother, who had always looked down on him because of his adopted status, deliberately made him eat peanuts, even though she knew he was allergic. When his aunts and uncles gave him money for his birthday, she immediately grabbed it. Feeling suffocated, he stood up, thanked everyone, and left the party early with the birthday cake specifically for Su Ji. After blowing out the candles and seeing her friends off, Su Ji stood quietly outside the bar, hoping for a glimpse of Lu Zhou. But when he didn't come, she suddenly felt her nose tingle and her eyes tear up. At the same time, Lu Zhou brought the cake to the party venue, but was informed by the staff that she had left. He called her, but no one answered. Meanwhile, Su Ji stood silently by the river, admitting for the first time to herself that she really liked him. At that moment, Lu Zhou suddenly appeared, breathing heavily, looking rushed. He apologized for being late, and she couldn't hide her happy smile. The cake he had prepared had the shape of a house, a symbol of her childhood dream. After that, the two went to his house and watched the movie that she had never seen before. In a familiar and slightly shy atmosphere, Su Ji accidentally stumbled into Lu Zhou's arms. That closeness made both of their hearts tremble. She gently asked him if he had shaved, a suggestive question, and Lu Zhou replied with a light kiss on her cheek before the two shared their first sweet kiss. From that moment on, their relationship officially entered a dating phase. On the way home, seeing couples holding hands, Su Ji suddenly took his hand, then hugged him tightly, as if wanting to make up for the time they would be apart. When they were close to her house, seeing her dad standing outside the gate, she quickly pulled Lu Zhou to hide behind a bush. Before going out to meet her dad, she quickly kissed him. Only when she was in the house did Lu Zhou quietly leave. The next morning, Su Ji went to Lu Zhou's house again to borrow his computer to check her college application results. With a score of 680, she was more than capable of getting into the architecture program at Peking University. But she wasn't happy at all because she was afraid that the winter weather in Beijing would cause her nosebleeds. Lu Zhou laughed at her childish worries and asked her to go out to celebrate. However, she asked to go swimming with him the next day because she wanted to admire his abs, causing him to teasingly pout back. She quickly soothed him, saying that she was just joking, then excused herself to go tutoring. The next day, as soon as she finished tutoring, Su Ji went to find him. She didn't say anything, just hugged him tightly to relieve her longing. Lu Zhou teased her, saying that it was as if she had been working for 7 or 8 years. While they were being affectionate, they heard Yang Chi's footsteps coming home. Both of them immediately sat up straight on the sofa, as if nothing had happened. But Yang Chi sensed that something was different. When he saw the bandage on Suji's collarbone, he made a suggestive joke, causing both people sitting next to him to only smile awkwardly and try to change the subject. Lu Zhou escorted Suji all the way home. They were still chatting when, unexpectedly, her dad caught them. Faced with her dad's suspicion, she quickly denied it, saying she only asked him to take some pictures, but he didn't believe her. He called her inside, while he stayed behind to sternly question Lu Zhou. Seeing that he hadn't gone for a follow-up appointment as scheduled, he warned him not to rely on his youth and neglect his health, and demanded that he make time to get re-examined this month. Lu Zhou could only nod and leave. Inside the house, Su Ji was restless with worry. When her dad came back, she handed him a glass of milk and tried to probe the situation. He just said that Lu Zhou's health issues had nothing to do with her, advising her not to concern herself with things she shouldn't know. During dinner, he beat around the bush again, inquiring about the relationship between the two. Faced with her dad's pressing questions, Su Ji bluntly admitted that she was dating Lu Zhou, leaving him stunned. Even so, he didn't object, and even seemed pleased that they were from the same hometown, making it convenient to visit him after they got married. Hearing this, Su Ji quickly clarified that although they were dating, they would break up soon because Lu Zhou was about to go abroad. Upon hearing this, he flew into a rage and raised a knife, threatening that if she wanted, he was willing to deal with that punk to teach him some manners. Su Ji could only laugh at her dad's strictness mixed with love. At the same time, Yang Chi was decorating the room to celebrate Lu Zhou's escape from being single, but unexpectedly, the person who pushed the door open was his mother. Yang Chi was flustered, while Lu Zhou, upon returning, could only sigh helplessly when he saw that his mother had discovered his relationship. She gave all sorts of reasons for not accepting this, leaving him unsure how to explain. Su Ji also confided in her dad that if Lu Zhou went abroad, she would be very sad. Her dad comforted her that everything would be all right, but the sadness was still evident on her face. After seeing that his daughter was tipsy, he helped her to her room and then personally made hangover soup, muttering and scolding Lu Zhou while he did so, saying that he would deal with him when he came to the hospital for a follow-up appointment. The next morning, when Lu Zhou arrived at the hospital, he immediately called him into his office. He said that he heard his daughter crying and telling stories yesterday, and felt useless because he couldn't keep her boyfriend, which made him very angry. He even showed him videos of Su Ji from when she was little, a girl who used to be confident and strong. Just then, Su Ji walked in, surprised to hear her dad say that she had complained like that. She wanted to see Lu Zhou's health results, but he stopped her. Seeing this, he gently told her to wait outside, in the examination room. He bluntly warned him that even though he was old, he could still throw a punch. If he dared to bully his daughter, he wouldn't have peace, even if he went abroad to study. After saying that, he advised him to go decisively if he was going to go, and not to drag things out. Although he felt gloomy inside, when he went outside, Lu Zhou still tried to appear cheerful, so she wouldn't worry. On the way home, a sudden downpour started, making them both feel melancholy. Su Ji realized that he still wasn't decisive enough to say goodbye, and she couldn't hold him back. When he dropped her off close to her house, Su Ji told him to stop here, joking that if her dad saw them, he would grab a knife again to threaten him. Watching her figure run towards home, Lu Zhou thought to himself that he might not ever meet a girl like that again. Immediately after, he received a text message from his dad telling him to come home tomorrow to get the keys to the apartment abroad. When he saw that he wasn't very enthusiastic, his dad asked if it was because he didn't want to go anymore. He only replied that going abroad was great, and that this time he would settle there permanently and not come back often, hoping his parents would take care of their health. In the taxi, he wanted to call Su Ji just to hear her voice. On the other end of the line, she sensed his sadness, so she quickly lied to her dad that she had to go out and wouldn't be eating dinner at home. Su Ji arrived at Lu Zhou's house, and in a brief moment of affection when she placed her hand on his shoulder, they were unexpectedly caught by Yang Chi. The sound of the door opening made her quickly pull her hand away. Yang Chi came out, half joking and half reproaching that they had only been apart for a short time, and the two of them had already managed to hug intimately. Not wanting to miss the opportunity, he immediately interrogated them about who made the first move. Su Ji quickly pointed to Lu Zhou, but Yang Chi didn't believe her. With his understanding, he believed that Lu Zhou wouldn't be foolish enough to start a relationship at this time, with his study abroad so close. Unable to contain himself, Lu Zhou retorted that it was none of Yang Qi's business, causing him to sulk and leave. Seeing this, Su Ji suggested going back to avoid making the two friends argue, but Lu Zhou reassured her that arguing was just their habit, nothing serious. He went outside, saw Yang Qi sitting by the door, and teased him, asking if he was waiting for him to apologize. Yang Qi retorted that he was just planning to buy fried chicken for the two of them. When they returned inside to the somber atmosphere, Su Ji reminisced about the first time she met Lu Zhou back in 10th grade when he was competing in basketball. She was assigned to bring water to the class monitor, but when she saw Lu Zhou standing and talking with some female friends, she was too shy and asked him to pass it on for her. Unexpectedly, he drank the water himself. Su Ji accused him of being narcissistic, but he denied ever talking to female students during competitions. However, Su Ji was sure she didn't see it wrong, because the person standing next to him that year was Zhang Yu, the girl who later also appeared on the show and took pictures with him. Hearing this, Lu Zhou laughed and teased her for being jealous. Su Ji denied it, saying that she didn't have any feelings at the time, but then asked him what were his feelings. Lu Zhou admitted that he liked her from the first time he met her, but at that time he didn't believe in love at first sight and thought she already had a boyfriend, so he didn't dare to approach her. After a romantic moment, he prepared to take a shower, but Su Ji demanded that he not close the door. He immediately refused, telling her not to get any ideas. However, before he could take a shower, Yang Qi brought a group of friends home, including Guyan, to throw a farewell party for Lu Zhou before he went abroad. At first, Lu Zhou was worried that Su Ji wouldn't be comfortable seeing her ex again, but it turned out that she was chatting with Gu Yin very happily. Seeing that, he was relieved and went to take a shower. As soon as Lu Zhou came out of the bathroom, everyone urged him to sing. He started to sing, and his friends praised him endlessly. As for Su Ji, she just sat quietly and looked at him, her eyes not leaving him. The atmosphere, full of reluctance, was suddenly interrupted when Su Ji received a call from her dad. She quickly went into Lu Zhou's room to answer, and he followed her in. Over the phone, her dad sternly demanded that Lu Zhou take his daughter home immediately, otherwise he would teach him a lesson. Before leaving, Su Ji jokingly asked to see his abs again, but Lu Zhou didn't indulge her, telling her to just watch movies because everything was there already. In the middle of a lively gathering, as everyone gradually fell asleep after the drinking party, Lu Zhou and Su Ji sat next to each other watching a movie. In that moment, Gu Yin texted, saying that she was about to leave and hoping to say goodbye. Lu Zhou gave the phone to Su Ji to reply for him. She just smiled gently and told him that he should go and see off his old friend because she didn't mind. Lu Zhou agreed. While seeing off Gu Yin, she admitted that if it were someone else, she wouldn't give up so easily, but losing to Su Ji, she was willing. Gu Yin also affirmed that if one day Lu Zhou and Su Ji were no longer together, she would still continue to pursue him if she still had feelings. Even so, Lu Zhou only hoped that she would focus on her acting career because he knew it was a challenging path. After the farewell, everyone returned to their own world. Back inside, his friends had sobered up and decided to go for a second round. So the group went out for a late-night snack, talking and laughing until the next morning. On the way home, Lu Zhou suddenly asked Su Ji that if they met again in the future, would she ignore him as if they had never met. She said that Qing Yi, her affectionate nickname from the past, wasn't as insignificant as he thought. It's just that they might not have met in 10th grade. Lu Zhou wondered that if they had never met, why did she leave such a deep impression on him when they first met? He still remembered every moment of it as if destiny had arranged it. On the sun-drenched road, at dawn, Su Ji asked him a simple but meaningful question. According to him, can money buy happiness? Lu Zhou just thought that he didn't know about others. But Su Ji was definitely someone who would be willing to exchange happiness for money. The smile after that sentence made him forever engrave it in his heart. They watched the sunrise together. Then Su Ji said softly, "Let's stop here." Lu Zhou looked at Su Ji, a talented, independent, and determined girl, and thought to himself that not everyone could conquer someone like her. He joked that later she had to find a boyfriend based on his standards. Su Ji smiled, nodded, and hugged him tightly, a farewell hug for a fleeting but deep love. Even though everyone had sadness in their hearts, they had to move forward. Lu Zhou packed his bags to prepare for the trip and accidentally picked up Su Ji's hair tie. He stood silently in contemplation, her image still lingering in his mind. On the other side, Su Ji wasn't doing any better. She was like a lost soul, Seeing her daughter like that, her father offered to fly with her to Europe if she was still attached. But Suji just replied softly, "I'm going to Beijing soon." Hearing that, he could only comfort his daughter, saying that there were many good people in the world. It didn't have to be Lu Zhou. But in Suji's eyes at that moment, perhaps no one else could replace his position in her heart. Kai Ying came to find Yang Qi because she knew he was sad because Lu Zhou was about to leave Rui Cheng to go abroad. In her heart, his silence and lost look needed some comfort. She gently reminded him that even if the world was vast and changing, she was still by his side, a friend willing to share his joys and sorrows to cheer him up. Kai Ying suggested playing billiards together and suddenly showed off her skillful ability that she had honed since she was a child. Meanwhile, Suji wandered aimlessly through familiar streets and unconsciously stopped in front of Lu Zhou's house. She sat quietly on the bench by the road, her mind gradually drawn back to memories that were short but imbued with the aftertaste of a love worth cherishing for a lifetime. At that moment, Lu Zhou returned, he saw her, and they just greeted each other in silence. She smiled and left, while he stayed and couldn't take his eyes off the figure that had just disappeared behind the trees. Returning to his room, he sat in front of the window, his eyes not leaving the photo with her smile, a silent regret squeezing his chest. He wondered if he would have the opportunity to meet someone like Su Ji on his upcoming journey. And Su Ji continued to pursue her passion, roaming through familiar streets. But wherever she went, in her mind was still the image of Lu Zhou, the boy who made her heart beat the most deeply. At this time, Lu Zhou boarded the plane with his family. The atmosphere high above made his mood seem suspended in the air. When he opened his bag, he was surprised to find a small umbrella and a carefully folded letter. In the letter was Su Ji's soft handwriting with wishes for the days without her by his side, that his world would still be filled with sunshine, flowers, and applause. She only hoped that as long as it was still raining and the puppy was still wagging its tail, he would always be loved. A month later, in Rui Cheng, Su Ji's image was still present in Lu Zhou's dreams. He often dreamed of her, the girl with the gentle smile, and then woke up in a long-lasting emptiness. Standing in front of the distant sky, he had only one figure in his heart. On the other side, Su Ji wasn't doing any better either. Every road she walked through, every scene that flashed in her eyes, reminded her of Lu Zhou. Even though the two were no longer together, the memories were still intact, not faded at all. In a sudden rain, Kai Ying and Yang Qi were talking when her father caught them. The anger from him made the atmosphere tense. He reiterated his daughter's promise that she would study obediently, and then questioned the relationship between the two. In a moment of emotion, Kai Ying admitted that she and Yang Qi had been in love for a year. But Yang Qi immediately corrected her, saying that she was just angry and said that. In reality, they had only known each other for 2 months and nothing had gone too far. Even so, he still questioned her to the end. Finally, Yang Qi frankly admitted that he had feelings for Kai Ying, but had never said it. He himself hadn't clearly determined whether it was love or not, because he was planning to wait until she passed the entrance exam to Beijing before confessing. All the words today made him misunderstand the girl he cherished. Hearing that, Kai Ying could only turn around and run away, leaving her father to rush after her in the heavy rain. The next morning, Yang Qi sent a text message saying that he would be leaving for Beijing at 4 p.m. He wished her good luck and said, "See you there." Kai Ying hurried to see him off, not forgetting to receive the exam preparation guide that he gave her as a farewell gift. Before leaving, Yang Qi gently instructed her not to worry about what he said yesterday. The feelings he had for her were his own business. He didn't expect her to bear or respond to them. Who knows, when he got to Beijing, he might soon fall in love with someone else. Kai Ying just smiled slightly and gently hugged him one last time. The two parted there without a promise to meet again, but both carrying a part of each other's memories. In Rui Cheng, during a dinner with his family, Lu Zhou unconsciously looked out the window. An old man was playing the violin on the street. The melodious sound suddenly awakened the image of Su Ji in him. Without hesitation, he raised his camera and captured that moment. Lu Zhou had just finished eating with Xing Qi. When the two stepped outside, the atmosphere was suddenly shattered by a violent explosion from the restaurant behind them. A chaotic scene immediately unfolded. People panicked and ran in all directions. Lu Zhou's parents, who had just returned, were shocked by this scene. They immediately called him. Lu Zhou reassured them that he was fine, but Xing Qi was injured. While she was worriedly asking more questions, The phone in his hand accidentally fell to the ground, trampled under the feet of the rushing crowd. He could only stand by helplessly. At the same time, in Ruicheng, Suji heard the news about the large explosion that killed one person and injured 3 others, including a Chinese student studying abroad. The news left her stunned, and a hunch told her that that person might be Lu Zhou. On the other side, his parents managed to arrive, horrified to see Xingqi injured, and rushed him to the hospital. Lu Zhou quietly picked up the broken phone, full of regret when he saw the missed calls from Suji. She kept calling, but there was no response, the rising fear almost suffocating her. Unable to bear the interruption, Lu Zhou hurriedly ran to a public phone booth to contact her. Hearing his voice on the other end of the line, Suji burst into tears. He reassured her that he was still alive. The phone had just accidentally fallen and broken, and repeated the promise he made years ago that he would still play the violin for her when he was 80 years old. She asked if he missed her. He replied with a similar question. She only said softly that she would let him know next time they met. The decision clearer than ever, Lu Zhou returned home and told his parents that he didn't want to study abroad anymore. This was not a discussion, but a decisive announcement. His father was angry, but his mother didn't stop him. She just wanted to leave this place quickly, because for her, the lives of Lu Zhou and Xingqi were everything. Over here, Suji was also preparing to leave for Beijing. Kai Ying's father gave her a thick envelope, reminding her kindly that dating was okay, but if anyone bullied her, she should tell him first. She boarded the taxi, leaving Ruicheng with reluctance, her heart full of memories. On the way to the capital, she received a message piece on Zhushang Road from Lu Zhou. At Huguang University, she quickly integrated into the new environment. Friendly dormitory friends helped her check into the room. Sherlan, a 2000 grade philosophy student and the dormitory in charge, came in to give each person a box of milk as a welcome gift. She announced that there would be an exchange meeting organized by the student union this week, and everyone had been registered to participate. The atmosphere in the room was full of excitement. At the same time, Lu Zhou and his family were on their way home, when Xingqi expressed wanting to eat ice cream. He immediately told the driver to turn into a small road to buy it. His quickness and few words made Xingqi realize that something was different. If it were before, he would have taken this opportunity to demand something. During the exchange meeting between students, Suji was present in the large auditorium. On stage, Jiang Yu, a second-year student from the philosophy department, performed the song Want Freedom, a song that Lu Zhou used to sing for her. That melody vividly evoked his image in her mind, making her heart flutter. When the party ended, Suji discovered that one of her earrings was missing. It was a gift chosen by Lu Zhou himself, so she immediately returned to the hall to search. Jiang Yu caught her and enthusiastically helped her. He was the one who found the earring, and her grateful smile caught his attention. Knowing that she was an architecture student, he admitted that he had noticed her from the moment he performed. Just then, Li Ku, another student, came and announced that he had formed a fellow hometown group for Qing Yi, promising to add her to the group. She nodded in agreement and left. Jiang Yu asked Li Ku if he knew her from before. Li Ku replied that the two didn't study together, but both came from Qing Yi, and she was his friend's ex-girlfriend. Hearing the 3 words, ex-girlfriend, Jiang Yu just smiled slightly, a meaningful smile. Li Ku sensed something was wrong and sent Lu Zhou a playful warning. He texted that he was about to be edged out, because it seemed like a hot male student at the school was starting to pursue Suji. Even though Lu Zhou was much more handsome than the other person in Li Ku's eyes, he had to admit that it was hard to guess how Suji felt. Outside, the atmosphere in Lu Zhou's family was getting more and more tense. His parents argued fiercely about studying abroad. His mother, with a determined and anxious look, mentioned the haunting memory of a boy about Lu Zhou's age who was injured and bloody right in front of their eyes last year. That image made her unable to rest assured to let her son alone in a foreign land. Before that determination, she said harshly that if her husband still forced Lu Zhou to go, she would choose divorce. The statement, like a knife, tore open the silence in Lu Zhou's heart, leaving him stunned. He ran to stand by his mother's side, protecting her from his father's anger. He angrily smashed the cup and loudly agreed to the divorce, causing the family atmosphere to collapse. Meanwhile, Suji returned to her room and saw a new friend request from Jiang Yu, along with a short message reminding her not to lose her things again. At home, Lu Zhou's mother quietly bandaged her son's wound. She said this had nothing to do with him, that it was all a mess between adults. But he quietly replied that he was no longer a child, and that from today, he wanted to decide his own life. In the darkness of the room, Xing-Chi suddenly asked softly, were their parents really getting divorced? If that happened, the boy wanted to be with him. He didn't answer, just quietly turned off the light. The next morning, Suji was trying to hang a banner on the notice board in the drizzling rain when the pain in her leg made it difficult for her to move. Returning to her room, she was surprised to receive a bag of medicine from her roommate. It was a message from the dormitory manager. Someone had secretly prepared the medicine for her. As soon as she saw the boxes of medicine, her memory immediately went back to the last time when she told Lu Zhou that her leg was injured from falling off her bike and that arthritis would be very painful when it rained. Her intuition told her that the person who brought the medicine was none other than him. She hurriedly grabbed an umbrella and rushed out, running all over the campus in the rain to find him. But despite walking the long road, that familiar figure was nowhere to be seen. She called, but he didn't answer. Back in the room, feeling dejected, she opened her phone and typed a message asking him if he was the one who brought the medicine. But before she could send it, another message from Li Ku arrived. He confirmed that he bought the medicine and playfully asked if she had received it yet. When she asked how he knew she was injured, he simply replied that the propaganda department had eyes and ears everywhere, and then told her to remember to take the medicine. It was clear that Lu Zhou was still in Ruicheng. How could he appear in Beijing? However, the truth was that he had come indeed. It was he who stood there looking at her from afar, who didn't answer when she called. And it was also he who asked Li Ku to bring the medicine to her. Early the next morning, someone stood downstairs in the dormitory, blasting a confession of love to Su Ji with a loudspeaker. She just sat in her room, sighing wearily. At that moment, her father called, hearing the noise and asking about it, curious about his daughter's new pursuer. When he knew she wasn't interested and even compared him to Lu Zhou, he grumbled unhappily that she kept mentioning her ex. To appease him, Su Ji said she would try to get to know someone else at Huguan University. Downstairs, the sister of the person confessing love appeared, speaking frankly without any politeness. She emphasized that even Jiang Yu, the famous hot boy of the school, hadn't had the opportunity to approach Su Ji, let alone anyone else. Finally, the confession ended in the awkward scattering of the crowd. On the weekend, Su Ji made an appointment to meet Yang Qi for dinner and a chat. During the meal, Yang Qi frankly asked her if she still missed Lu Zhou, because when he received her message, he had guessed somewhat. He also admitted that since arriving in Beijing, he hadn't dared to contact her proactively, partly because he was afraid that seeing him would remind her of her ex. Hearing that, Su Ji just smiled, neither denying nor affirming. The conversation turned to another topic when Yang Qi mentioned Jiang Yu, the hot boy of her school, and asked if he was as handsome as him. Su Ji laughed, and then asked him if he was asked by Lu Zhou to keep an eye on her. Yang Qi admitted that after the breakup, Lu Zhou knew she was studying at Huguang, so he told him to pay attention, afraid she would be bullied. Hearing that, Su Ji just quietly continued eating, saying nothing more. At the same time, at the art gallery, Lu Zhou was waiting for Yang Qi to arrive. When they met, the two went to dinner together. During the meal, Yang Qi asked directly if Lu Zhou had seen Su Ji yet. Lu Zhou nodded, admitting that he had been to Huguan University, but intentionally didn't let her know. He had submitted a supplementary application to the school and was still waiting for the results. Before having the official results, he didn't want to let her know that he had returned. Yang Qi was extremely surprised to learn that Lu Zhou no longer planned to study abroad. He was so touched that he wanted to give his friend a hug. At that moment, his eyes stopped at Lu Zhou's wrist, where he was wearing a hair tie. He immediately recognized that it belonged to Su Ji, unable to hide his emotions. Yang Qi teased that Lu Zhou was no longer a good son to his mother. Lu Zhou told him to keep it a secret that he had returned to the country. The next morning, Yang Qi forced Lu Zhou to wear a pair of purple pants when checking the supplementary admission results, considering it a lucky charm. Lu Zhou could only helplessly comply. When the results appeared, his heart seemed to stop. He had been admitted to Huguan University. Joy surged, but he decided not to tell Su Ji yet, wanted to wait 2 more days after completing everything. On the other side, Jiang Yu intentionally came to chat with Su Ji, inviting her to attend a concert by singer Yu Jia. Su Ji refused, saying that she already had plans for the National Day holiday. She would take that person out to play. Then she explained that she had added Jiang Yu on WeChat because his profile picture looked very much like an old friend. She used to think it was him changing his number, and from the beginning she didn't have any intention of dating. Jiang Yu asked curiously if it was her high school ex-boyfriend. Su Ji nodded, and when he asked more about what kind of person he was, she just sighed, a jerk. Jiang Yu could only smile. Back at the dormitory, Suji asked Gongju how to buy a Beijing phone SIM. Gongju quickly pointed out that there was a service counter next to the number 2 cafeteria. The next day, Kaiying came to Beijing from Rui, Chung to visit Yangqi. As soon as they met, she came up with a mischievous idea, telling him to call Suji to lure her over, and then she would pretend to be a delivery person to give Suji a scare. However, Yangqi immediately refused, glanced around Kaiying's room, and suddenly realized that every detail had the presence of a couple. Kaiying suddenly became suspicious. Could it be that Yangqi was in love? If so, her appearance here was probably inappropriate, so she decisively demanded to leave. At that moment, they happened to meet Lu Zhou. Kaiying was shocked to see him, the person who should have been abroad. Instinct told her to immediately call and tell Suji, but Lu Zhou stopped her. He said that when it was appropriate, he would explain everything to her himself. Feeling that what he said made sense, Kaiying nodded in agreement. Not long after, she enthusiastically put on a bear costume and suddenly appeared in front of Suji. The two hugged tightly in overflowing joy. In the evening, when the two were confiding, Kaiying told about how she was preparing for the re-examination with Tan Su. Last time, he didn't do well on the practice test, so his parents came to the school and scolded him severely, not holding back from criticizing him as useless. Hearing this, Suji just said coldly that Tan Su's ability to psychologically manipulate others was indeed something inherited from his family. When Kaiying discovered that Suji was still applying medicine, she worriedly asked about it. Suji replied that it was better, recounting how last time she sprained her ankle and then was suddenly given a large bag of medicine by her roommate. It was unknown who sent it. There were some medicines specifically for arthritis, an old ailment that only her father, Kaiying, and Lu Zhou knew about. At that time, she mistakenly thought that Lu Zhou had returned to Beijing, causing her to run around in the rain looking for him everywhere. Kaiying planned to reveal the truth, but at that moment, she received a message from Yangqi, asking her to keep everything a secret. Suji then said that she had sent her new phone number to Kaiying. Hearing that, Kaiying remembered that Suji had previously said she wouldn't change her number for fear that Lu Zhou would call in the middle of the night, so she suddenly asked again. Suji just smiled, saying that in this day and age, it was easy for anyone to contact anyone. Knowing that Suji hadn't sent her number to Lu Zhou, Kaiying immediately texted Yangqi, urging him to act quickly because Suji was about to leave. Elsewhere, Lu Zhou was still quietly cherishing the gift and the hair tie that Suji had given him. At this time, Lika suddenly appeared looking for Yangqi and happened to see Lu Zhou. He was so shocked he couldn't speak. Lu Zhou calmly explained that he had applied for supplementary admission to Huguang University, majoring in public affairs management. Lika couldn't hide his curiosity and immediately asked Lu Zhou to go to dinner. At the same time, Suji had just returned from school when Gongju excitedly recounted that earlier a super handsome guy had appeared in the cafeteria, captivating many female students. Even the beauty queen of the foreign language department had actively asked for his WeChat. Gongju also asked her to come to the number 2 cafeteria to see the handsome guy. Suji smiled, bringing her meal card to the cafeteria as invited. She just sat down to eat when she suddenly caught sight of Lu Zhou. That scene left her stunned, as if she were dreaming. Lu Zhou came over and gently asked about the pork knuckle she was eating. When he saw that she still hadn't come to her senses, he teased. Couldn't she recognize him? Suji looked up, confused, and asked him what his relationship was with Lu Zhou. He replied that he was the brother of Ji Kun. Hearing that, she kept a cold face and said that if that was the case, they should keep their distance because Lu Zhou was still in Europe. After saying that, she angrily left, leaving Lu Zhou standing silently in the crowded cafeteria. Jiang Yu, who had witnessed everything, quietly followed behind. Lu Zhou got curious and asked Li Ku if Suji had a lot of admirers. Li Ku casually confirmed that she definitely had quite a few. He himself had seen people stop Suji in the street just to ask for her WeChat number several times. But things had calmed down recently because everyone knew it was really hard to win Suji over. Even Jiang Yu failed, so other people didn't want to embarrass themselves. Lu Zhou heard this and pretended to be indifferent, trying not to seem jealous. He said that if Suji really wanted a date and met a good person, he wouldn't have any objections. But his face turned red, his ears got hot, and his hands unconsciously clasped together, completely betraying his inner turmoil. Lika noticed this and pointed out that Suji was currently in the same club as Jiang Yu. He heard that an older student who lived in the same dorm had invited Suji to join a media club, and this student was very close to Jianyu. Being that close was an advantage that Lu Zhou didn't have, so he needed to hold on tight to her if he didn't want to lose her. Meanwhile, at the media club meeting, Jianyu hardly paid any attention to the content. He was just busy looking at Suji. Noticing that she didn't seem well, he quietly texted her to go home early and he would take care of the rest. Suji thanked him and left the meeting. That night, Suji asked Kai-Ying to go out for drinks. Kai-Ying, taking advantage of Suji's good mood, finally confessed the truth. When she first arrived in Beijing, she looked for Yang Qi, initially planning to collaborate with him to surprise Suji. But she unexpectedly ran into Lu Zhou. She didn't intentionally hide this, but Yang Qi and his friends stopped her from telling. Hearing this, Suji wasn't angry. She simply calmly announced that she would cut ties with Kai-Ying for 24 hours, and then she went back to the dorm. At the same time, Lu Zhou was asking his roommate about his girlfriend, who also studied architecture. He asked for his friend's girlfriend's schedule and immediately got it. He printed out the architecture department's schedule and sent Suji a sticker of a puppy wagging its tail, but she just quietly read the message without replying. The next morning, he waited for her in front of the dorm, hoping she would have breakfast with him. She agreed, and while they were eating together, Suji wondered how early he had arrived. Lu Zhou honestly said that he had arrived at 4 a.m. Even though he knew she was very busy today, he still wanted to see her. He also revealed that he had gotten her department schedule from his roommate, who was dating his roommate's girlfriend. He said that he had originally planned to return to school next year, but because there was a major explosion in Rui Cheng, his mother changed her mind and agreed to let him study in the country. Just then, Guangzhou University announced supplemental admissions for the Urban Infrastructure Engineering Management major because they didn't meet their quota. He felt that this was fate and registered for it without telling her because he wasn't sure he'd be admitted. Suji asked more, and he said he planned to switch to economics or pursue a double major later. She just laughed and said that this afternoon she had advanced math with Professor Wang and to just wait and listen to the alien language and he'd understand. When it was time for class, she ran to class and sat next to Lu Zhou, surprising both of his roommates. Even though Professor Wang's class was known to be tough, Suji answered more questions correctly than Lu Zhou did. After class, the two roommates curiously asked what the relationship was between her and Lu Zhou. She just smiled and said they were from the same hometown. In the afternoon, she went out to the balcony and sat there texting Lu Zhou, smiling as she texted. At the same time, Lu Zhou was studying with Li Ku. His friend saw him intently looking at the architecture department schedule and asked if Suji had forgiven him, and what exactly were they to each other now. Lu Zhou just laughed and said, "Li Ku, do you really not understand my intentions?" Just then, the beauty queen of the foreign languages department unexpectedly appeared and asked to sit across from him. The girl known as the beauty queen of the foreign languages department was always finding excuses to strike up a conversation with Lu Zhou, but he kept a clear distance, coldly rejecting every overture, causing her to awkwardly retreat. When she saw him leave the table, she hurriedly followed, but he didn't bother with her. As soon as he saw Suji in front of him, his eyes immediately followed her, and he called out softly. She replied casually, "What a coincidence." That answer made him wonder if that coincidence hid a bit of jealousy. The beauty queen curiously asked if he had a girlfriend. He just calmly replied that he didn't have one right now, but he was trying to win back his ex-girlfriend. He didn't hesitate to direct his gaze towards Suji as he said that. After returning to the table, Li Ku immediately asked if he had been caught. Lu Zhou recounted how Suji said, "What a coincidence," and guessed that she was jealous. Li Ku doubted and said that if she was really jealous, it was a good sign because it meant she still cared. But if she wasn't jealous at all, it might be a sign that she had completely moved on. Those half-hearted analyses made his head even more confused. Uneasy, he called Kai-Ying to inquire about the situation, but Kai-Ying just said softly that she wasn't sure if Suji was angry or not, and just hoped that they wouldn't contact each other privately in the future to avoid causing Suji any further misunderstandings. The next morning, when he saw him eating in the cafeteria, Suji came up and asked to borrow his flycam. He readily agreed and even offered to show her how to use it if she needed it, but she refused, saying she just needed the instruction manual and didn't need him to tutor her. When he asked her what she was going to use it for, she didn't answer. He just jokingly teased that as long as she didn't film nude boys, it was fine. Gong Zhu, who was sitting nearby, saw the two of them talking and made an excuse to leave, leaving them alone. He asked her if she was afraid of affecting her admirers. and she laughed and said she was only afraid of affecting his admirers. Lu Zhou affirmed that everyone knew now that his ex-girlfriend was studying at Huguang, and that he was publicly pursuing her again. So who would dare to approach him? At that moment, another girl came up and asked for his WeChat, but he just smiled and said, "First, ask my ex-girlfriend for permission." When she returned to the dorm, Suji saw that her roommates already knew what had happened. Everyone guessed that things weren't over between her and Lu Zhou. EC, her roommate, said that she was going to have a birthday party the next day and had initially planned to invite both her boyfriend and his roommate, meaning Lu Zhou. But if Suji felt awkward, she was willing not to invite him. Suji just told her to invite him. She didn't mind. The next day, EC's birthday party was lively and fun. While everyone was chatting, someone spoke up and asked Lu Zhou, "When are you planning to go from ex-boyfriend to official boyfriend?" Suji just smiled and replied, "If he's already an ex-boyfriend, there must be a reason. Life's too short to fall into the same hole twice." 2 days before that, when Lu Zhou was playing basketball with Jiangyu during a break, Jiangyu asked him if he was Suji's ex-boyfriend. Jiangyu continued, saying that if Lu Zhou didn't know how to cherish her, he should just stay as her ex-boyfriend and not hurt Suji anymore. Then he recounted that Suji joined the media club because Jiangyu's profile picture was of Neuschwanstein Castle, the same as a side account she thought was Lu Zhou's, so she took the initiative to connect with him. On the night of the freshman social event, she lost an earring. The president made a big fuss looking for it, and Jiangyu was the one who found it. At that time, she was very grateful and said that the earrings were extremely important. Hearing this, Lu Zhou just smiled. He thought Li Ke was very wrong, saying she forgot about him. No way. That night, after the birthday party, he slowly followed behind Suji. It suddenly started to rain, and without thinking, he grabbed her hand and pulled her under an awning to take shelter. Overwhelmed with emotion, he couldn't help but hug her tightly, planting a hasty kiss in the silent rain. The rain-soaked road was where Lu Zhou and Suji walked together. The atmosphere was a bit playful when Suji suddenly proposed a bet who would do better on the midterm exams. Lu Zhou joked that if they couldn't compete to see who was better, then dating wouldn't be fun at all. Kissing wasn't fun. Dating and then kissing was even less fun. But not dating and then kissing was what made people's hearts flutter. But Suji just said casually that she had just kissed him and still felt normal. So even kissing without dating didn't make her feel any more excited. Finally, she said to forget about dating. Doing something else might be a bit more fun. That way of speaking made Lu Zhou feel both helpless and amused because her innocence and playfulness were her own unique characteristics. Reconnecting with Suji made Lu Zhou's spirits soar. He even drew a puppy wagging its tail on the architecture department's schedule announcement board. The next morning, while he was texting Suji to set up going to eat ribs with Yang Qi, Lu Zhou unexpectedly ran into Tan Su, who was coming to find her. During the meal with Yang Qi, he mentioned this with a somewhat unhappy expression. Yang Qi, who was good at observing and reasoning, immediately came up with a series of hypotheses about why Tan Su was looking for Suji, finally concluding that Tan Su definitely had his own intentions. Lu Zhou could only sigh and didn't bother to refute. However, the truth was much simpler. Tan Su just wanted to return to his dream school to find some motivation for himself. He didn't know anyone in Beijing, so finding Suji was just to have someone to share with. During the conversation, Tan Su honestly expressed his helplessness with his declining studies, while his parents' expectations were too high. Suji listened and gently advised him that he didn't need to live according to so many people's expectations. He should just do what he wanted. Those words enlightened Tan Su somewhat, and he asked with admiration. So Lu Zhou also studied at Huguang University. It was true that someone like him could achieve anything as long as he had the determination. Hearing this, Suji didn't forget to defend him, saying that Lu Zhou had also tried very hard. He just never mentioned it. Meanwhile, after taking Yang Qi back to his room, Lu Zhou continued to study alone until 3 a.m. The intensity of his studies made even Yang Qi, who was always diligent, admit defeat. After studying, Lu Zhou returned to school early in the morning to have breakfast with Suji. His attitude of quietly sulking but still persevering in waiting made Yang Qi sigh with admiration. As dawn broke, Lu Zhou stood alone waiting below the women's dormitory, his eyes fixed on the entrance. From dusk until it was fully light, he waited patiently, but in the end he didn't see Suji appear. Disappointment quietly crept into the depths of his eyes. Lu Zhou sadly turned and left, carrying a bit of unspeakable disappointment. Suji, the day before, had stayed up late studying and had fallen asleep at her desk. When she woke up, it was almost 9 a.m. She immediately texted Lu Zhou asking if he was awake, but even after sending several more messages, she didn't receive a reply. In class, she took the opportunity to ask Gong Zhu for help because that afternoon an old high school classmate would be visiting Huguang University and she needed someone to show them around. After class, Suji went to the basketball court to find Lu Zhou. She tried to ask him about not replying to her messages, compared to how he always picked up his phone to reply when Yang Qi texted. But instead of answering clearly, Lu Zhou started a basketball game, using that as an excuse to avoid the tension. However, before they could compete, Suji received a message from Tan Su. Lu Zhou's reaction immediately turned cold. He said hurtful things, saying that if she still wanted to meet with Tan Su, it would be best to avoid him from now on. He didn't want to continue spending his patience and time on a half-hearted relationship. Suji was hurt by those words. She thought he understood her, but his words revealed his reasoned anger. Lu Zhou thought that if someone was pursuing him, Suji would probably encourage them with complete indifference. He blamed her for not putting herself in his shoes. Even if she was just taking a walk with Tan Su, she should have at least said something. When she said that she didn't like Tan Su at all, Lu Zhou retorted that even if she didn't like him, Tan Su cared about her. He affirmed that if it were him, he definitely wouldn't hide the fact that he was meeting with someone he used to have feelings for. Those harsh words left Suji confused, not knowing what to do. Gong Zhu quietly handed her a cup of milk tea, saying that Lu Zhou had told her to give it to her. When the team captain distributed milk tea to the team members, Lu Zhou initially said he didn't want one, but in the end, he still took a cup, probably thinking of Suji. Just then, Yang Qi called and asked her to go out to eat. On the way, he said that he had been drinking with Lu Zhou the night before. Around 4 a.m., Lu Zhou left, saying he was going to find Suji for breakfast. Yang Qi thought that Lu Zhou had thought things through, but when Suji heard that, she fell silent. She had been up late studying and had overslept that morning. Yang Qi could only shake his head and sigh, saying that this time things had gone too far. Lu Zhou was angry but still went to find her for breakfast, but in the end, he had to stand there waiting silently all morning in vain. Maybe he was even more hurt now. Yang Qi understood the situation clearly. Even if Suji didn't like Tan Su had been by her side for 2 years of school, while Lu Zhou had only known her for a short month, and they had to share most of that time. Lu Zhou was a perfectionist, always trying to do everything perfectly because he lacked a sense of security. From a young age, he had always listened to his parents and never dared to do anything wrong. He never shared his experiences, but quietly resolved them on his own. After narrowly escaping death in Ruicheng, he returned home to find that his parents were divorcing. Even though he didn't reveal anything, on the night of the gathering, he secretly took Suji's black hair tie and always wore it on his wrist. Yang Qi's sincere words gave Suji a lot to think about. Finally, she asked Yang Qi to help her arrange a meeting with Lu Zhou at a karaoke bar. When Lu Zhou arrived, he still maintained a cold attitude, keeping his distance. Seeing this, Yang Qi made an excuse to leave with Kai Ying, leaving the two of them alone in the room. Suji sang for Lu Zhou, and her singing made him smile, recalling the peaceful days when they were together. Then she took the initiative to apologize to him for the Tan Su situation and then punished herself with 3 glasses of alcohol. Seeing that, the anger in Lu Zhou's heart gradually subsided. He took her back to the hotel room where she had once rented for Kai Ying, but now her friend had gone back with Yang Qi, so she decided to stay there, not wanting to waste it. When she went into the bathroom to brush her teeth, she discovered that the toothbrush had been removed. Planning to go out and ask the receptionist, she unexpectedly saw Lu Zhou still standing outside, asking him why he was still there. His answer didn't need words, just a gentle pull. Lu Zhou wasn't willing to leave, not willing to let her go again. When Lu Zhou was about to move closer to Suji to kiss her, she gently stopped him. He reluctantly turned away. Before leaving, Suji demanded back the hair tie that used to be hers. On the way back, she sent him a humorous message, reminding him of his old promise that if she spent money on him, he would have to write an 8,000-word essay. Since she paid for karaoke tonight, she asked for a reduced sentence, just a few hundred words for him to read for now. In the letter, she recounted that during summer vacation, his mother had come to see her once. Through that brief meeting, she felt the deep love that his mother had for her son. However, she was also worried that young love was easily swayed. So in the end, she didn't dare keep him. She was afraid that if she said anything more, he would disobey his mother for her sake. So that summer, she didn't dare call, didn't dare say that she missed him. All those feelings were buried deep beneath her cold exterior, which was just a facade. When Lu Zhou finished reading that message, his heart was stirred. He immediately turned back to the hotel, just wanted to quickly run to her and hold her tight to soothe the longing he'd felt for so long. When they met again, he couldn't help but ask why she had waited until he left to confess her feelings. She just quietly replied that she knew he was still angry. The two of them sat down together to talk about the misunderstandings of the past and then re-establish their romantic relationship. A sweet kiss replaced the promise to cherish each other from this day forward. Unable to hide his happiness, Lu Zhou immediately called Yang Qi to brag, pretending to complain that he was about to suffocate because his girlfriend had just confessed her feelings. Yang Qi and Kai Ying, after hearing the news, enthusiastically congratulated him. The next morning, Su Ji and Lu Zhou had breakfast together. Then they both went to the library to study. When Li Ku saw them together and acting affectionately, he immediately understood everything. He quietly packed up his things, declaring that he would rather die than be a third wheel. But because the library was full, he reluctantly stayed, making Su Ji and Lu Zhou couldn't help but laugh. That afternoon, after playing basketball, Lu Zhou suggested inviting Li Ku and Yang Qi to his place on the weekend to celebrate his birthday, and also to officially celebrate their relationship. Li Ku teased that if he had been single for so many years, and it was the first time his girlfriend had organized a birthday party, he would definitely demand a big surprise. Lu Zhou just laughed and said, "She's busy drawing, preparing a surprise for you would probably be even more tiring, so it's okay, just simple and fun is fine." While the two were eating, they received a message that Xing Qi had arrived. As soon as she met her older brother, she acted spoiled and demanded to go out to eat. When asked why, Xing Qi frankly announced that from today, she was officially leaving home. She brought a turtle, saying she was leaving it for Lu Zhou to take care of for her, requiring him to feed it 3 times a week. Even though Lu Zhou planned to buy her a ticket home, Xing Qi insisted on staying. Seeing his younger sister looking upset, he pressed her for answers, and Xing Qi just sighed, recounting that since her mother moved out, no one cared about her anymore. Meeting Ji Kun was like facing an enemy. As soon as she got home, he started yelling at her, making her not want to go back. Xing Qi choked up and asked, "Don't my mom and brother need me?" Just then, their mother called, telling Xing Qi to stay put. She was on her way to Beijing, and she also texted Lu Zhou privately, asking him to find a place to talk privately. He told Su Ji to stay and look after Xing Qi and then left. Before he left, Xing Qi cleverly called Su Ji's sister-in-law and then asked the couple how far they had gotten, making her helpless and only able to laugh. When he met his mother, Lu Zhou bluntly asked her what she was planning to do. She said that she wanted to take Xing Qi back to Ji Kun, and he retorted, "What if the court awarded her custody? Would she abandon Xing Qi again like she had abandoned him?" That question rang out like a sharp knife, making it impossible for her to avoid it. It turned out that on the day his parents argued, he had inadvertently overheard a big secret. He was his mother's biological son. That truth weighed heavily on his heart, but also unlocked a part of his memory that had been buried. His mother, because she had abandoned him once, didn't want to repeat that mistake in this lifetime. While revealing her feelings, she tearfully recounted that if she had known he took her son to the orphanage, she would never have let him go. The moment she got him back, her heart was filled with both joy and extreme pain. At that time, she didn't have a stable job, was pregnant in difficult circumstances, and had to grit her teeth and go job hunting. Just then, she met Ji Kun, a man who at the time seemed kind and, most importantly, accepted the unborn child in her womb. She thought that she would just live like that. At least she could give her son a home, a protection, even if it was fragile. But then his biological father, it's unclear how, found where she was living. He went to Ji Kun's company, loudly berating her and demanding to get his son back. It turned out that in his youth, he was reckless and liked to wander, thinking that a little driving skill could take him anywhere. But a car accident left him in a coma, and his memory of his son faded along with it. His mother was mentally unstable, so she had to take him to the orphanage. After he woke up, he suddenly remembered that he had a son, but couldn't picture his face. With no other choice, he went to his mother, asking her to go to the orphanage to get his son. She had gone crazy by that point, unable to accept the thought of having to leave her son again. So she lied, saying that her son had been adopted by someone else. Around that time, Xing-Chi suddenly fell ill, constantly running a high fever. Ji-Kun was very superstitious and went to see a fortune teller. The fortune teller said that Xing-Chi had to have an older brother in order to survive the disaster. His mother seized the opportunity to bring him back. But then one day, Ji-Kun discovered the truth. He was his mother's biological son. Enraged, he made a condition that when he turned 18, she had to send him abroad immediately. Everything she had ever done, everything she had told him to be obedient, turned out to be because she was afraid that Ji-Kun would cruelly send him back to the orphanage again. Now, she hugged him, sobbing and constantly apologizing for letting him suffer so many hardships in his life. On the other side, Xing-Chi was also opening up and sharing with Su-Ji the things she used to think and see. The innocent girl recounted that her brother, Lu Zhou, normally wasn't very close to anyone in the family, but you're different. It's because he really likes you. Just then, Lu Zhou and his mother returned. She wanted to talk to Su-Ji privately. After a light-hearted conversation, the two became friends on WeChat. Then she took Xing-Chi back to Qingyi. When sending his mother and sister off in the car, Lu Zhou turned to her and asked her about the content of their conversation. And Su-Ji gave a mischievous smile, saying that she had told his mother that she was pregnant with his child and told her to get her checkbook ready. Lu Zhou just laughed, wrapping his arms around her, as if wanting to embrace all the happiness that was gradually becoming clear in his life. On Lu Zhou's birthday, the atmosphere was warm and familiar as Li Ku and Yang Qi were both present, along with Su-Ji, who was indispensable on that special day. When he saw that she had only come to congratulate him with words, Lu Zhou couldn't hide his surprise. He blurted out that it didn't seem right to come empty-handed to your boyfriend's birthday. Su-Ji calmly replied that he had said not to prepare anything. At this point, he frowned, demanding that she go to the basketball shop across the street and buy him a ball. Not an expensive one, just anything will do. He also told her that if he ever brought this up again in the future, she could just throw the ball at his face. Su-Ji got up and left under the teasing eyes of Li Ku and Yang Qi. The two friends burst out laughing at the way Lu Zhou had unilaterally promoted himself to boyfriend and was being ignored on his birthday. A while later, Su-Ji returned, not with a basketball, but with a small, delicate basketball-shaped keychain. She also secretly texted Lu Zhou, telling him to go with her to a place later, where the real gift was. Li Ku also brought out a birthday cake that he had prepared in advance. The three of them lit the candles and sang happy birthday to him. The singing rang out in the warm space, making Lu Zhou's face shine with happiness. In the evening, Su-Ji took him to a place she had secretly prepared in advance. Once again, there was another birthday cake in front of him, but this time it was a cake she had chosen herself. She wanted to blow out the candles and celebrate his birthday in a space where it was just the two of them. He embraced her tightly, unable to hide the joy on his face. At that very moment, the first snow of the season began to fall silently but pure. She gave him a model house along with a handwritten letter. In the letter, she not only wished him a happy birthday, but also wrote that not only on his birthday, but throughout his 19th year, there would always be a 19-year-old Su-Ji by his side. That gift was what she wanted to give to the 6-year-old Lu Zhou, the boy who had once been lonely and deprived. He was so moved that he cried. She teased him, saying that he must be thinking she was only attracted to his good looks. But actually, she was dating him with all seriousness. She gently wiped away his tears. The two of them cut the cake together and played under the snow. Cake frosting smeared on their cheeks. Laughter echoed through the white snow-covered scenery, a radiant and happy youthful birthday night. The next morning, when they returned to class, the lecturer unexpectedly returned the architectural design to 3 people in the group, requesting that they redo it. Su-Ji's was one of them. She was shocked, never thinking that there would come a day when she would be evaluated like that. Her 2 roommates were also very surprised because she had always been a good student, almost always at the top of the class. Throughout the class, she felt like she was sitting on pins and needles, unable to concentrate at all. When the class ended, Lu Zhou stepped forward and asked her to go to lunch, but she refused, saying that she wasn't hungry and wanted to go to the library right away. Seeing this, he asked her 2 friends. Gongzhu recounted that Su-Ji's hand-drawn piece was evaluated as unsatisfactory, and what was even more ironic was that she had guided the group's assignment, but they all passed while she didn't. After hearing this, Lu Zhou quietly stepped forward and sat next to Su-Ji in the library. He didn't say anything, just sat beside her until late at night. When the lights in the library gradually went out, he suggested that they go for a walk to relax. Snow was still falling in the sky, and the peaceful atmosphere soothed Su Ji's mood. It was then that Lu Zhou finally opened up and shared something that he had always kept in his heart from a young age. That the thing that made him most insecure was the moment he checked Su Ji's scores. The school he had attended was a key school in the city, a place where the best students gathered. The achievements he had were due to the strict and competitive environment. But Su Ji was different. She studied at Rue Jun, a more ordinary school, but was still able to achieve results that he couldn't help but admire. He said that maybe she hadn't realized how outstanding she was, and that she just needed to relax, find the root of the problem, and bravely overcome it, and she would definitely be able to do everything she wanted to do. Suddenly, Li Ku and Gong Zhu's group of friends arrived. The whole group rushed out into the yard and threw snowballs, teasing each other. Loud laughter echoed throughout the campus. The youthful scene once again became beautifully moving. The next morning, Su Ji met with Professor Hu to ask about her drawing. The professor reviewed it carefully and said that her drawing was very precise, especially her ability to handle space, a rare strength in a freshman student. Su Ji was considered the most outstanding student among the freshmen in the department, so the requirements that Professor Hu set for her were also stricter. Although her design was very tight and accurate, he commented that the work was still lacking a bit of soul. The professor pointed out a drawing of a senior student, a work that had been highly rated in the past, and suggested that she compare it to reflect and find the deepest differences. That night, Su Ji sat quietly alone at her desk, reflecting so much that she fell asleep without realizing it. In her dream, she saw her mother appear, and she said softly that the path she had chosen was not for someone without talent, implying that Su Ji was not suitable for the field. The dream Su Ji resisted, wondering why her mother had to say such harsh words. She smiled and said, "If you feel wronged, then cry, because once you've chosen this path, you have to be brave enough to continue, and you can't hesitate." Waking up in the middle of the night, Su Ji immediately texted Lu Zhou. She asked if he could make her cry, because she had just had a nightmare but couldn't cry. Without hesitation, he immediately went downstairs to find her. In the silent night, Lu Zhou held her tightly, asking about the dream that was troubling her. Su Ji recounted everything that had happened in her dream, the unspeakable frustration. After listening, he gently told her not to always suppress her emotions and not to force those around her to do the same. When emotions are stifled for too long, senses and empathy will gradually fade. So if you want to cry, then cry. If you want to pour out your heart, then be bold and pour it out. Don't always try to be patient. In another place, Kai Ying was on her way to meet Yang Qi when she inadvertently ran into another girl who was coming to ask to connect with him on WeChat. Before she could react, Kai Ying quickly stepped forward, gently interjected, and smiled, saying that she was late. The other girl immediately recognized the situation and retreated in confusion. Later, when the two of them were walking back from eating together, Kai Ying still had a sulky look on her face. Yang Qi felt that the situation wasn't that serious, because he was the one who was being bothered, not her. He said that if he encountered a similar situation again, he would frankly state that he already had someone to love. Hearing this, Kai Ying just changed the subject to dispel the awkward atmosphere. The next day, Su Ji and Lu Zhou went to see a movie together. The movie was so sad that Lu Zhou kept crying, while Su Ji sat there fairly calmly. Seeing this, she gently comforted him, saying that everything in the movie was just fake. But Lu Zhou thought that although the movie was fiction, the feelings that the character Xiao Ba had for his dog were real. He recounted that Yang Qi had recommended this movie to him many times in the past, and even because he loved the movie so much, he raised a dog and named it a Chico. Ironically, instead of his grandfather's name, his name was also Qi Gong, so he was beaten up by his father for it. After hearing this, Su Ji went online and searched it up, unexpectedly discovering that the movie was actually adapted from a real event. That made Lu Zhou even more moved, and he secretly admired the pure and sincere love that the movie had portrayed. In her dream, Su Ji kept hearing her mom sarcastically saying she was emotionless. Her mom was blaming her. "You've never understood your own feelings, even when you were little." Su Ji got angry with her mom and quietly left, leaving her dad and her frail grandma behind. From the time she was little until now, her mom had never once praised her. She had worked so hard to get where she was today, but her mom only told her to give up. "Mom, would you only be happy if I died like you did?" Seeing his girlfriend yawn, Lu Zhou guessed she'd had another nightmare. Su Ji confided, Even in my dreams, Mom isn't happy with me. Lu Zhou wanted to borrow a picture of her mom so that if he saw her in his dreams, he could ask her not to fight with Suji anymore. He complimented, "Your mom is really cool, the only female architect who got to participate in the conference in Europe." She remembered her dad saying before he died that her mom had left a letter for her, but her grandma accidentally burned the letter along with her mom's old clothes. She really wanted to know what the letter said, if it could clear up the misunderstandings between her and her mom. Going to the temple to pray for good luck, Lu Zhou asked everyone to buy wishing cards. He wanted to hang a letter, but the staff wouldn't allow it. Before leaving, Lu Zhou saw Suji sneeze, so he put his jacket on her to keep her warm. Back at the dorm, Suji hung up Lu Zhou's jacket and accidentally dropped a letter from the pocket. "Dear Mrs. Lin, my name is Lu Zhou, and I'm Suji's boyfriend. I'm worried about Suji, so I'm taking the liberty of writing this letter. During the time we've been together, Suji often talks about you. I can sense that she really respects you, but also feels like she hasn't lived up to your expectations. If Suji's grades weren't good before, she now got a score of 738 on the college entrance exam. She's also very talented, studying architecture at Huguan University. I want to say that Suji is very good and also loves her mom very much. I believe you also love your daughter very much. Even though you were angry when Suji flooded the house while playing with water, the work you were most proud of was later built on the water. I guess when you were drawing, you always remembered your mischievous daughter. So, I have a slightly unreasonable request. If Suji dreams again, could you praise her and say that you love her?" A tear, after so many years, ran down Suji's cheek. She happily ran quickly to her boyfriend. "Lu Zhou, thank you for your letter. I accidentally read it, and all the emotions just flooded my heart." Suji snuggled tightly against Lu Zhou. He told her that before coming to Beijing, he had met her dad. At that time, her dad was drinking to drown his sorrows. He said he wouldn't forbid the two of them from being in love, but he was afraid his daughter would get hurt. Lu Zhou guessed her dad was afraid he would steal away his precious daughter. After completing her art exam, Kaiying reported that she had to return to Qingyi. Suji told her best friend to wait for her 2 more weeks so they could go home together for winter vacation. Lu Zhou reported that he had to stay to participate in the competition, so he had to be away from his girlfriend. He told her to miss him and to keep moving forward. Yuqi winked to give his best friend space. He took Kaiying to see his personal painting exhibition. She criticized his skills for cutting back the length of her legs, but their smiles were full of color in this romantic scene. Before Kaiying left, Lu Zhou embraced the whole world. He told her to be careful on the road and to remember to send a text message to let him know she arrived safely. Knowing that Suji was back in her hometown, Kaiying and her dad rushed over for dinner. Mr. Su called his best friend into the kitchen to show off the pure wool sweater his daughter had bought him. He was worried that director Tai wouldn't be warm enough in his padded jacket. Meanwhile, Lu Zhou texted his girlfriend, complaining that she hadn't texted him in 6 whole hours. He told her to pray for snow in Beijing to keep him there. Otherwise, he'd go back to Qingyi and teach her a lesson. He told her not to provoke a boyfriend who had been abandoned in Beijing. He temporarily stepped back to second place to give Mr. Su a few days with his daughter. In the first few days of winter vacation, Mr. Su eagerly cooked every day for his daughter. Every meal full of Suji's favorite dishes, with extra nutritious things too. But on the 4th day, Mr. Su was busy and didn't make breakfast. On the 5th day, he asked his daughter to go buy buns from the shop. On the 9th day, he asked Suji when she was going back to school and calling her boyfriend. Suji felt sad because her dad wanted to chase her away. In Beijing, Lu Zhou thought that all parents were like that. Familiarity breeds contempt. He thought she was like a lovesick girl looking for him as a replacement for comfort. Just then, a classmate asked Zhang Yu, who used to sit at the same desk as Lu Zhou, to quickly remind him to focus on the drinking. Lu Zhou quickly asked everyone not to talk like he was involved with Zhang Yu in any way. He was already calling his girlfriend, wondering how he should explain things to her. "Lu Zhou, I'm jealous." Seeing his girlfriend suddenly hang up, Lu Zhou excused himself and left. Arriving at the hospital to see his dad, Suji saw him treating Director Wei's son. The son even knew they were dating. Mr. Su promised to reward Shaolin for doing good deeds, just like he used to tell his daughter. Suji came to give her dad his phone. She asked to leave first and also invited Director Wei to come home for dinner. Meanwhile, Lu Zhou couldn't get a hold of Suji, so he called Kaiying, but she didn't see Suji at home. Lu Zhou wanted to return to Qingyi and would try to get back to Beijing before the final competition. Kaiying also ran into Suji and she reported that Lu Zhou was worried and going crazy, booking a flight back to Qingyi. Su Ji went into her room to call and remind her boyfriend to hurry back to school because the weather wasn't good, and missing the flight would waste all his efforts for half a semester. Lu Zhou, are you worried that I'm going to break up with you? Su Ji, we haven't seen each other in a long time, and I've been busy lately, so I haven't talked to you often. Su Ji, I'm really worried. Su Ji said that she had gone to the hospital and happened to meet her dad's girlfriend. Lu Zhou, now I only have you. I only want you. I don't want us to break up. Lu Zhou hung up and texted her to say he had rented an apartment near Su Chi's house, and the door code was the sum of their college entrance exam scores. He hadn't moved in yet, so she could arrange things as she pleased. Su Ji, my home only has you, and there won't be anyone else. After the New Year's Eve dinner, Kai-ying invited Su Ji to watch fireworks. As it turned out, Kai-ying was helping Lu Zhou bring Su Ji to see him. Lu Zhou, after finishing the competition, had rushed back to see his girlfriend. Su Ji, Happy New Year. Yang Shi reminded the two to stop being affectionate because the restaurant was about to close. Just then, Mr. Su passed by and asked Lu Zhou what he was doing there, and he stammered, I'm returning a book to Su Ji. Mr. Su carried the suitcase of books for him, not forgetting to order his daughter to go home. Meanwhile, Yang Shi gave Kai-ying a lucky charm, and he happened to notice that she had the same phone background as him. He mustered up the courage to confess his feelings to her, but Kai-ying stopped him and unexpectedly hugged Yang Shi tightly. She made a promise that when she passed the exam and came to Beijing, she would take the initiative to confess first. Back at the new rental home, Lu Zhou saw that Su Ji had already arranged everything neatly. He sat down to crack a walnut and accidentally knocked over the table. Just then, Su Ji texted, reminding her boyfriend to be careful with the table she had personally made. Lu Zhou leaned his head back and was almost hit by a falling painting. Coming back from buying food, Lu Zhou saw his younger brother waiting at the door, and the boy said, My future sister-in-law sent me the address. Seeing his younger brother fast asleep, Lu Zhou called his mom. He told her that Xing-Qi was at his place and didn't forget to wish her a Happy New Year. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, Lu Zhou took his younger brother home. Xing-Qi hated seeing their dad, so he ran straight into his room. Lu Zhou was about to leave, but the housekeeper pulled him in to see his dad. Mr. Chen knew it was too late to say anything now, but he still wanted to express his feelings. Lu Zhou, I'm very honored to be your father. From a young age, you were smarter than your peers. You were understanding and never worried me. Other parents were jealous of me, but I was so bad I didn't handle the relationship with your mother well, and I stubbornly sent you abroad. Maybe I destroyed a happy family. Lu Zhou, this will always be your home, and if you want, you can come back anytime. Lu Zhou looked at his dad's, now mostly gray hair, and he gave the red envelope back, telling his dad to take care of himself. Because Su Ji had to go back to her hometown to celebrate the new year with her grandma, she asked Uncle Fu to drop off Lu Zhou's suitcase. He insisted on coming in for a cup of tea and wouldn't change his shoes. He cracked walnuts, continued to knock over the table that Lu Zhou had fixed, and leaned his head back, knocking over the last painting. Uncle Fu got straight to the point, telling Lu Zhou not to play around and then come back to Su Ji. Lu Zhou guessed that Uncle Fu was very handsome when he was young and probably also a playboy, getting to eat dinner at his girlfriend's house. Lu Zhou was so nervous he was stiff. He obediently ate according to her dad's instructions, praised the food endlessly, and admitted that he could hold his liquor well. Her mom heard that Su Ji liked motorcycles, so she gave her a super cool helmet. The whole family raised their glasses to celebrate the new year. After getting drunk, Mr. Su decided to impart to Lu Zhou the art of braiding a ponytail, and he practiced on Lu Zhou to give him the best experience. Lu Zhou grimaced in pain, but still wholeheartedly followed Mr. Su's instructions. Seeing Lu Zhou's head transformed into a rambutan, a spiky fruit, Mr. Su was finally satisfied and fell asleep on the table. Back at their rented home, Lu Zhou asked his girlfriend to charge his phone, and he said the password was Su Ji's birthday, allowing her to check his messages. Su Ji thought that if a boyfriend set his password as his girlfriend's birthday, there probably weren't any embarrassing secrets, and she was only interested in the bank card password. Lu Zhou obediently handed over his wallet. They both lay on the bed, watching the fireworks outside the window together. Lu Zhou had prepared a New Year's gift for his girlfriend, a little wagging tail dog that he had made himself. Lu Zhou suddenly wanted to bow to his mother for attracting Su Ji, and she thought he should bow to Tan Su as well for creating the opportunity for them to meet. Lu Zhou wanted to have another drink, but fell asleep on the bed. Visiting Su Ji's home, Bajun unexpectedly ran into an old friend, and she realized that Su Ji really did look like Mr. Z. Outside, Lu Zhou took Su Ji back, and they saw her mother talking to Mr. Z, and they were discussing not letting the mistakes of their youth affect their children. Lu Zhou analyzed that Su Ji's mother couldn't be his mother, but her dad could be his dad. Su Ji thought they might have to break up first. Hearing Lu Zhou agree, she complained that those devoted to love were only like that. Lu Zhou pulled Su Ji back, affirming that the only reason to break up was if she didn't love him anymore. Su Ji wanted to probe her dad, but Lu Zhou made her kiss him before she could go home. But Su Ji was no longer in the mood to kiss. Calling Lu Zhou, Su Ji reported that she couldn't get anything out of her dad, and he had once heard his mother say that her real dad was very playful and was so obsessed with racing that he had an accident and fell into a coma. Su Ji suddenly remembered someone who was like that, Uncle Fu. She went to see Lu Zhou's mother, asking directly, "Is my dad Fu Qing?" Mrs. Chun said that after a few years of dating, she proposed to Fu Qing, but he didn't want to get married early, so they broke up. When she found out that her ex-boyfriend had a child, Mr. Fu welcomed Lu Zhou back. During the time he was in a coma in the hospital, his mother was ill, so she had to put her grandson in an orphanage. Mr. Fu thought his son had been adopted, so he had been lonely until now. Afraid that her boyfriend would have an accident, Su Ji went to their rented home to find him, but Lu Zhou wasn't home and wasn't answering his phone. Su Ji heard a noise outside the door and quickly went out to pull Lu Zhou inside. She snuggled into his arms, relieved of the anxiety that had almost burned her heart out. He forced a smile and hugged her tightly. Hearing that her dad had fallen and broken his leg, Su Ji rushed to the hospital. Mr. Su told his daughter not to worry because it was considered a work-related injury. Director Tai didn't approve it because Mr. Su had gone to Tongbai Road to buy books for Director Wei's son. Just then, Lu Zhou came to visit Mr. Su, and Su Ji excused herself to go get water to process her negative emotions alone. Lu Zhou followed her, reminding his girlfriend that she could confide in him. Su Ji said that in the past, her dad only went to Tongbai Road to buy pastries for her, but now he was also buying comic books for Director Wei's son. Lu Zhou thought that Su Ji needed time to get used to the new relationship, and since his legs could still be used for several decades to come, no matter what the road, he would go buy pastries for Su Ji in place of her dad. Back in the hospital room, Lu Zhou happened to meet Fu Qing, and Mr. Fu gave Su Ji a red envelope, but she didn't bother to accept it. Lu Zhou asked to take Su Ji home, first to cook a meal to bring to Mr. Su. Mr. Fu was angry that Su Ji, because of her boyfriend, was ignoring his tens of thousands of yuan. Mr. Su introduced him as the real son of Lan Hui. Back home, Lu Zhou began to conquer his future father-in-law's stomach. Su Ji saw the way her boyfriend looked in his old age, which made her fascinated. Lu Zhou advised Su Ji to propose to him. Maybe she would get emotional and just nod. Su Ji pretended to open a ring box, suggesting that her boyfriend should be ashamed. Meeting Lan Hui, Fu Qing admitted that he wasn't reliable enough when he was young, which forced her to lie that Lu Zhou had been adopted. He said he had met his son last year, who was very handsome and understanding, and he thanked Lan Hui for raising him so well. He wanted to make it up to him, offering a resort and everything to Lu Zhou, and Ms. Hui reminded him that recognizing his son wouldn't be that easy. In the hospital, Mr. Su proudly bragged to his best friend that his future son-in-law was both handsome and a good cook. He gave Lu Zhou a red envelope so that he wouldn't be shortchanged on his first meeting, in addition to a red envelope from Fu Qing. Back home, Su Ji helped her boyfriend count the money. She opened Fu Qing's red envelope, and unexpectedly, it only contained boxing tickets. Su Ji said that Uncle Fu was very humorous and patient and always looked after and taught her, and she didn't know that he was so bad in the past. Arriving at the boxing gym, Lu Zhou asked Fu Qing if he was prepared to be hospitalized. Lu Zhou, on behalf of his mother, punched him hard, and he was about to speak up for himself, but he stopped and didn't punch, thinking that the best way for them to live together was not to meet each other anymore. Mr. Fu asserted that he never intended to abandon his son. Lu Zhou questioned, "Am I supposed to thank you, Fu Qing? Because you were such a scumbag. My mother always had prejudices against me. As soon as I talked to a girl, she would be afraid that I would be playing around like you. For 18 years, you didn't know about me, but you ruined my life. You think a few punches can make it up to me? I can forgive you because I don't want to make things difficult for Su Ji between us, but don't try to repair our father-son relationship. Going outside, Lu Zhou received a notification about Su Ji's post on WeChat. As it turned out, at the moment when they were apart, not only had Lu Zhou photographed Su Ji's back, but she had also turned around to capture his image. She hoped that all hatred would vanish, so that the boy in Yifeng Alley would always prevail. Waiting for Lu Zhou to return, Mr. Su then served the main dish. He heard that Lu Zhou was allergic to peanuts, so he declared that from now on, the Su family's Kung Pao chicken would be peanut-free. Lu Zhou was moved, tasting the warmth of the two words family. Mr. Su remembered that he didn't like Lu Zhou when they first met and secretly took a number to see a doctor. Kai Ying wondered, Lu Zhou is seeing a urologist? Mr. Su quickly announced that all the indicators were normal in order to save some face for his future son-in-law. Back at their rented home, Lu Zhou collapsed on the bed, and Su Ji knew that he had been playing basketball, which was why he had to see a urologist. He wouldn't let his girlfriend go home to get back at Mr. Su a little. Su Ji lay down on the bed, joking and teasing her boyfriend. On the flower road, Lu Zhou was smug that while the entire street was single, they were in love with each other. But the most terrible thing was that they didn't bring an umbrella in the rain. Even so, the rain was no longer hateful because of the other person's presence. Knowing that her son was about to return to school, Miss Hui came to cook for Lu Zhou, and he reported that he had vented his anger on the terrible man. Ms. Hui said that Fu Qing wanted to transfer the resort to Lu Zhou, so she told her son to keep his hand so that he could sign his name, and if Lu Zhou didn't want it, he could give it to Su Ji. Lu Zhou didn't want to starve, so he went into the kitchen to cook. Meanwhile, Su Ji read the post on WeChat, and Xing Qi bragged that he even saw his brother's name in the sample essay. She discovered that the inspirational quote for her was not from Tan Su, but the author was Lu Zhou. He saw that she knew the secret, guessing that Su Ji was increasingly in love with Chun Lu Zhou. Returning to her old school, Su Ji was invited to give a speech on her college entrance exam experience. Instead of mentioning hollow issues, she revealed how to stay beautiful late at night and how to fall in love early. She said that she used to be very miserable, and then she heard the saying that there is no real despair in the world, only prisoners trapped in their thoughts. At that time, she realized that although she was small, she was great, and if she had a heart of steel, she would definitely shine in the sun. As long as the sun hadn't set, they would have a future. On rainy days, they just needed to wring out the water on their clothes and continue to live. They were chosen to be the world, not the world chose us. Finally, Su Ji asked to share the saying that her boyfriend liked the most. Even if 1,000 years pass, the 8 directions are still wide open. The future is like the sea, and the days are long. Lu Zhou thanked his girlfriend for letting him witness the glorious moment of youth again. 4 years later, Su Ji has set foot in many new lands but is still always by Lu Zhou's side. He wakes up and pretends to blame her for saying men's names in her dreams. Su Ji affirmed that she only loved him. She discovered that he was looking for information on wedding photography locations, so she secretly followed Lu Zhou to the bookstore, but in the end, he still discovered her. Back home, Su Ji saw that Lu Zhou, instead of watching movies with his girlfriend, was just busy texting his future father-in-law. Mr. Su reported that he was buying fruit and would be home soon to cook for his daughter. Just then, Yang Qi came to find Kai Ying, and by the way, he complained that he was very uncomfortable about her affair. Lu Zhou couldn't help his best friend because he got along very well with Su Ji. Yang Qi also remembered that someone had argued with Su Ji to the point of tearing his hair out. Lu Zhou affirmed that Su Ji loved him very much and even raced and built a house for him. Meeting Su Ji at the steamed bun shop, Kai Ying asked about her best friend's future plans. Su Ji was about to graduate and had received invitations from several design companies. Lu Zhou was in his second year of graduate school and would probably go straight to a PhD, and Kai Ying asked Su Ji, "Aren't you afraid that the young students are eagerly looking at Professor Chen?" Su Ji revealed that Lu Zhou was about to propose to her, and she suspected that Kai Ying was pretending to quarrel with Yang Qi to help Lu Zhou orchestrate a surprise proposal. Just then, Lu Zhou came with flowers, and Kai Ying received some news and hurried off to an interview. Su Ji wondered why Lu Zhou was giving her flowers, and he said that he saw Yang Qi buying flowers for Kai Ying and was afraid his girlfriend would feel shortchanged. Walking past Lu Zhou's old apartment, Su Ji discovered that the door wasn't closed. To their surprise, their friends had prepared a surprise party, in which everything was filled with memories between Lu Zhou and Su Ji. He stepped in front of her, so nervous that his face turned red and his heart wanted to jump out of his chest. "Chen Lu Zhou, why don't you kneel down already?" Lu Zhou pretended to reach for Su Ji's keys because he had hidden the ring in the little dog from 4 years ago. He took a breath and calmly knelt down in front of her. "Su Ji, will you marry me?" Su Ji said shyly, "I do." Su Ji petted the wagging tail dog, and Lu Zhou happily looked at the whole world before his eyes. While taking pictures, Su Ji secretly kissed Lu Zhou to mark the happiest moment of her life, and she took Lu Zhou to the meteor shower observatory. Su Ji gave him a model of the house she designed. After the misunderstanding, Lu Zhou proposed, and Su Ji planned to take the initiative first, but she was still a step slower than him. "Chen Lu Zhou, the house is ready. Can I marry you now?" "Su Ji, I'm really looking forward to being yours. We've been dating for almost 5 years, and I still love you very much." Su Ji confessed that recently she often felt lucky to have Lu Zhou by her side, and also afraid that they would miss each other. But that's life. There are bright moments for us to move forward bravely, and there are also dark times for us to hold hands tightly. "Lu Zhou, I love you." "Su Ji, I love you too. Stay with me forever." After getting engaged, Lu Zhou obediently cooked, waiting for Su Ji to come home, but she called to say that she had to work overtime until late. She promised she would still make it to the airport in the morning to see him off, as he went abroad for an exchange program. After 5 years, Lika finally waited for the moment to end the fiery love phase between Lu Zhou and Su Ji. He guessed that Su Ji was so tired of Lu Zhou that she wanted to send her fiancé abroad as soon as possible. Before leaving for the airport, Lu Zhou sulked with his girlfriend, saying that she was tired of him, and he told her to just say she didn't love him so he could give up early. Su Ji told Lu Zhou to study hard abroad and then return to bring glory to his hometown. "Su Ji, will your husband not mind if I come and visit then, right?" Su Ji laughed. "Sorry for not being able to see my boyfriend off at the airport." Lu Zhou was sympathetic to Su Ji's work, but he couldn't avoid feeling disappointed. Arriving in Switzerland, Lu Zhou always missed Su Ji. He called just as she was gathering with friends, and Su Ji remembered that Switzerland was about to host a film exhibition by director Jessica, so she reminded him to go see it. Sitting in the movie theater, Lu Zhou quietly shed tears. A hand offered a pack of tissues, and Su Ji appeared before Lu Zhou's eyes, but if he was just a little careless, she would disappear. Lu Zhou couldn't get a hold of Su Ji, so he walked home alone in the pouring rain. "Chen Lu Zhou," the familiar voice sounded, warming his cold heart. "Lu Zhou, you've lost weight." Lu Zhou pulled Su Ji into his arms, happily realizing that this wasn't a beautiful dream. Su Ji revealed that she had been busy finishing work early so that she could celebrate their anniversary with Lu Zhou, and he breathed a sigh of relief because his girlfriend wasn't tired of him yet. Lu Zhou took Su Ji to a place, taking a photo of her from the same angle as her mother years ago. Arriving at the place where her mother used to work, Su Ji looked at her mother's name engraved on the memorial plaque, and tears of pride fell down. Su Ji quickly snuggled into Lu Zhou's arms. Back at the hotel, Su Ji received an anniversary gift, a collection of architectural photos of homes, along with Lu Zhou's daily status updates. Su Ji was moved because every moment that passed, he always remembered her, and she hugged Lu Zhou, thanking life for bringing him to her. "Lu Zhou, what do you think love is?" "Su Ji, love is when I'm tired and see you next to me. It's about bravely pulling out the thorn under your foot, daring to imagine the future amidst the storm. Love is always changing like clouds, sometimes like surging waves." This is where the story ends. Don't forget to like and subscribe to not miss out on more amazing videos. For now, goodbye, and until next time.